Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. It's time to kick off 4 hours of really good informational radio that we call The Drive. And we'll get you home. We'll drive you some salient points home to you so you can understand what's going on in the world around you. And if we get the opportunity, we'll drive the liberals crazy. That's just a sort of extra added bonus to the show. Hey, hope you're having a good day on this 29th day of November. I want to start out by talking about the ongoing investigation into not really a Hunter Biden. We talk about Hunter Biden all the time, but I think you have to understand that the investigation that's happening up on Capitol Hill with regard to Hunter Biden is really aimed more at getting to whether or not Joe Biden has been bought and paid for, and whether or not he has done things in exchange for money that was given to his son, and that eventually then made its way back to his coffers. That's really what we're trying to find out here. But one of the key players in all this, of course, is Hunter Biden. You need to know exactly what he knows. And so the House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed Hunter Biden to come and testify behind closed doors. When you testify behind closed doors, it's called a deposition. It's usually done by staff lawyers. You get the opportunity to ask a lot of questions and show documents, and it's more like a legal proceeding. It is a sworn deposition, so you are sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so, there in that situation, you want to have a deposition. But, what happened was the curveball that Hunter Biden's legal team, mainly his attorney, Abby Lowell, suggested was, well, we're not going to come in for a deposition, but we will come in for a public hearing. And you know why that is? Because public hearings, well, you're going to get a lot of noise from the other side of the aisle. The Democrats are going to, use every opportunity. They get every other shot to ask questions, and they'll do everything they can to muddy the water and try to turn it into a dog and pony show and slow down the process. And you'll, at the end of the day, not get the information that you truly need. So, this is a game that Hunter Biden's attorneys are playing because they see the advantage of having a dog and pony show, and they see the disadvantage of actually having Hunter Biden come in behind closed doors and spend several hours asking and answering real serious questions with documents and explain this and where did this money go and what was this transaction about? That's the kind of stuff you need to get to the bottom on, and it won't happen in a public hearing. And so what's going to happen here? Is Hunter Biden going to show up for the deposition as he's been subpoenaed to do? James Comer talked about it on Newsmax, a pretty good interview. Here's about 3 minutes of what he had to say about all this.
What do you do if Hunter Biden refuses to comply with the subpoena and says, you know what, I won't come in for a closed-door deposition. I'll only do this in public?
There's a precedent for this. The same exact thing happened when the January 6th committee subpoenaed Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon said he will not come in for a deposition, but he will come in for a public hearing. Jamie Raskins went on Face the Nation and said absolutely not. He can have a public hearing after he does the deposition. He refused to do the deposition, and Congress held Steve Bannon in contempt of court. We will treat Hunter Biden the exact same way the January 6th committee treated Steve Bannon. Look, this is a serious investigation. This is about public corruption at the highest levels of our government. We have over 10,000 pages of documents that we've obtained pertaining to Hunter Biden's financial transactions with our enemies around the world. We need to ask him hundreds of questions. If he comes in for one hearing with 24 members having 5 minutes each to ask questions, with the Democrats yelling and screaming like they do every hearing, we would probably get about 30 to 35 questions in. We need to ask him hundreds of questions about specific transactions with our enemies around the world. We will gladly have a public venue for Hunter Biden. I welcome that, and we will do that after he comes in for the deposition on December 13th.
Do you plan to move forward with contempt of Congress proceedings if he does not show?
If he does not show. Look, this is a serious investigation. I don't think we have to provide any more evidence to prove that Hunter Biden was influence peddling with our enemies around the world. Even the Democrats will admit to that. Where the argument is what Joe Biden's level of involvement was. Now, we want to ask Hunter Biden about that. And you cannot do that in a committee setting.
Are you expecting Hunter Biden to no-show testifying in private?
I wouldn't recommend that if I were Hunter Biden.
But is that what you're expecting?
No, we expect Hunter Biden to show on December 13th for a deposition.
Yeah.
How long does the process take? Because you're on the clock now. We've got 11 months to go until the election. And part of the arithmetic here on Hunter's team's part could be run out the clock.
Well, of course, that's what their strategy is, to run out the clock, to obstruct. That's what they've done to us the entire 8 months. We've had to fight every battle to get every ounce of information pertaining to the crimes the Biden family's committed. If it weren't for the House Oversight Committee, nobody would know anything about all the schemes that the Biden family did with our enemies around the world. Jim Jordan and I talked to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, last night on the House floor, and we were talking about this. And Mike Johnson has our back. If Hunter Biden does not comply with the legal subpoena that we issued to him, then we will take steps to hold him in contempt of Congress.
Well, that's so a real showdown is about to happen. And will he defy the subpoena? He will then be compelled to testify. He'll be found contempt of Congress. And I don't think he wants that legal problem. So does Abby Lowell, and do Hunter Biden back down on coming in for the deposition? Everybody in an investigation like this, they call everybody in. He doesn't. That's the problem with Hunter Biden. He wants it done, a special way. Hunter Biden doesn't have to follow the rules that everybody else follows, and that's part of the problem here. No, he comes in, he gives his deposition, and then if you want to have a hearing where, the Democrats can make their points and you can showboat, that's fine. But we'll have the information that we need to go forward with the investigation. Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, serves on this committee as well, and she was talking to Maria Bartiromo about the things that she's interested in.
I want to know where all the bodies are buried. I want to know how these companies were created and layered, where the money was from China and how it got to the U.S., how it got to different Biden family members. Where was Joe Biden? How was he involved? What kind of bribery? The WhatsApp messages, the emails, the text messages. We'll be able to verify his accounting of all of that. And quite frankly, I think he needs to sit for more than one deposition. There's so much money that was involved here. It's incredible. But we've got to do the first step, which is the deposition.
How much money do you believe the Biden family has pocketed at this point?
Oh, well, it's north of $50 million. The amount of money that we're talking about that we've seen in suspicious activity reports, the amount of money that's been laundered through that family, through their corruption, is going to be north of that. And I think it's significant sums. And, was it cash? Was it credit card? How was this done? Where did Joe Biden have access to the money? All these things can come forward through the testimony of people like Hunter Biden and those affiliated with him. And this does not end well for Joe Biden. I can guarantee you that. We get Hunter Biden in and his associates in to prove out what we've been saying all along. And look, every time a Republican has been called a conspiracy theorist on this investigation, every fact we brought forward has been proved to be true. And so that's what we've got to do. And the American people will decide whether or not Joe Biden is corrupt and he should be president. But by this time, it's pretty obvious how this ends.
All right. There's Nancy Mace. Now, over at the White House, they normally don't talk anything. They don't answer any questions about Hunter Biden. But yesterday on Air Force One, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked a question about, what's going to happen here. And she had a cute little political answer, which completely hacks me off.
Probably saw the headlines when we took off that Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, has offered to testify, but publicly. Does the White House support that? Will White House counsel advise him? And should a witness get to negotiate under those terms on how they should be able to testify?
Here's what I'll say about that is House Republicans should really focus on American families instead of the president's family.
Oh.
That's what Americans want to see. They want to see, we just had a few minutes about talking about lowering costs and what matters to the American people just a second ago. And that's what they should be focused on. Focus on the American families and their needs and what they want, and not the president's family. Anything else that's related to this, I would certainly refer you to the White House counsel, my colleagues.
They're focused on it. Should he participate?
Pardon me?
They are focused on the Biden family. So should the president's son participate? Should he testify?
I just answered your question. I think I was very clear on what House Republicans should focus on. They should focus on the American family instead of the president's family.
Well, you know what? That's just that answer right there. Just that's a BS kind of answer. It is fair game to look at the activities of the president's family if there is corruption involved. And already there's so much indication that there was corruption. The real question is, did the corruption reach the level that Joe Biden was involved in it? I mean, I think the evidence is pretty clear that it's headed that way. And it's very cute. I'm sure this came out of some focus group somewhere for Karine Jean-Pierre to say, oh, well, quit focusing on the president's family and start focusing on America's family. Listen, if you cared about America's families, about 10 things I could suggest to you that maybe the Biden administration should not have done. You know, that is, you know, she's going to pull that one out time and time again. That's going to be her official answer. Thank you to whatever focus group came up with that one. It's too cute. Too cute. All right, so what else is going on out there? Okay. What does this mean for Joe Biden and his campaign? Biden advisors, according to the Daily Caller, and Democrat strategists have different perceptions of how Hunter Biden's aggressive legal strategy will influence his father's political fortunes as he runs for re-election. 8 people close to the president and his son told Politico. A former 2020 campaign aide told Politico some White House officials feel irritated that he's being more aggressive because he's not clearing the tactics and the strategy with the White House is the unspoken part of that, or the campaign. Other aides are concerned Hunter Biden's legal tactics increase the spotlight placed on his foreign business dealings and personal scandals, which I think they would agree probably do not help the president of the United States. Intentionally or not, they're betting on the political expediency of sacrificing Hunter, a friend said. The greater good is served by accountability and vindication, not by acquiescence to political prosecution and the efforts to dehumanize him. Well, who's dehumanizing him? We're asking him questions about what he did in his business dealings. How is that dehumanizing him? And so, you know, this is going to be a one to watch in the next coming days. So they, you know, December 13th is the day he's supposed to show up, or he could face a case of contempt of Congress. The one downside to a case on contempt of Congress is it would have to be prosecuted by, are you ready for this one? The Justice Department. And we know how Merrick Garland is. So we'll watch it. We'll see what happens. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. At Genesis Diamonds, they are rolling back prices and finance rates so you can get headliner gifts for Christmas. Maybe it's that pair of diamond earrings or that all-new designer fashion bracelet or that dazzling 2-carat diamond ring. It's all more affordable because at Genesis, they've got special pricing across the board and zero interest financing for 5 years. So you can get that $3,000 diamond pendant and just pay $50 a month, or that $6,000 eternity band for just $100 a month. Everything's included in this amazing holiday offer. All GIA certified natural diamonds and all lab-grown diamonds, even all of our luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Imagine that $15,000 Rolex for just $250 a month. You can even finance the sales tax. So don't let the talk of rising prices and high interest rates dampen your holiday spirit. At Genesis, they are lowering prices and taking interest rates down to zero. Get that amazing gift they deserve and make your money go further than ever. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit.
American families of hostages taken by Hamas in Gaza meeting with officials here in the United States. Some news over in the nation's capital concerning a Republican congressman who's facing expulsion, and some news in B&A concerning the traffic that the holiday weekend faced. Find about it at all. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
25 minutes past the hour. There's Mac Morey there in the newsroom. Hello, Mac. Everything going well with you today?
Hello. Yeah, doing great.
And there is Chris Weber in the control room pushing the blinky buttons. You having a nice Wednesday there, Chris?
No.
Okay, well, thank you. Just keep that to yourself.
You're welcome.
You sit soaking sour over there and just... 25 shopping days till Christmas, 47 days until the voting starts in Iowa for the 2024 election cycle. And I want to mention that on the 7th day of December, we're going to have a Super Talk Live event at the Scoreboard. I guess it's a bar and grill kind of thing at Cedar Creek Marina. We'll be talking about the year that we are leaving and the year that is still ahead. And Dan, Chris, Matt, and Brian, Brian, will all be there as we broadcast live. It'll go from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. I mean, we're going to be staying out late on a school night. That's right. And here's the thing. People are saying, well, Brian, that sounds like a fun event. How could I possibly get a ticket to this? Well, I got great news.
How much is it going to cost?
How much is it going to cost? I got great news. You don't need a ticket, and it's absolutely free. I said free, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, that's the kind of people we are, to give you a good time with out there, and your food and drink is on you,
unless you can sweet talk one of the fine hosts into buying it for them.
Yeah, maybe you can do that. Good luck with that. But details can be found at 997WTN.com. I mean, the way this is going to work is I'm going to start the show over here, and then the guys are going to be in place over there. The other guys are going to be in place over there at 4 o'clock, and we'll talk. We'll go back and forth. We'll have and then at about about 5. I guess 5:30 or so. I'll head over there, and then I'll be there till 8 o'clock. So they'll take over, and I'll make the trek to Mount Juliet.
You gonna get a helicopter to shuttle you, or are you driving? What?
Yeah, no, I need a boat, because I can come in on the marina.
Ooh, that'd be something.
I just get on a boat. That would be a stunning way to arrive. Anyway, so that's all good and fine. I want to just say thank you again to the people who come up with this remarkable product called the 5-Hour Energy Drink, because I am definitely on a 5-hour energy drink today. We have as we discussed yesterday, a newborn puppy at our house, and Solo is the puppy's name. She's doing well. Mama and baby are doing well, but I had to get up for the 2 and the 4 o'clock feeding a.m. That's not. I'm not talking about the afternoon feeding. I'm talking about the early morning feedings, and so Dawn did 12, and then I did 2 and 4, and she did 6. Oof. Yeah. So I mean, setting that alarm twice in the middle of the night to get up.
Yeah.
And the puppy is just a beaut. I mean, she's just a spirited little being. I'll tell you for sure. But she's a slow eater.
It takes her time, does she?
Would you get busy here? Come on, Daddy needs to go back to sleep. Daddy's tired. No, it is a labor of love, and she is we set up a puppy cam.
Oh,
so the Grogu's and the puppy are in our master bathroom, and they have little cages and everything, and I set up a camera that looks down on the baby, and then. I run the cable from the camera into the bedroom where we have a little TV, and it stays on all night. So, if we wake up, we can look and see how's the baby doing.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but the thing about it is, it's got a microphone on it. So if the baby starts to, chirp or cry or whine, you hear it. And so
makes for a good night's sleep.
Yeah, that's right. Every time that baby moves, you hear a rustling. It's just anyway. It's great fun, and we are looking forward to this experience. I've never done the puppy thing.
Yeah, the newborn. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done it. This is the first time in my whole life that I've done that because, we always had male dogs growing up and never had puppies. So this is going to be a real experience to go through. And if the first night is any indication, by the end of the weekend, I'm going to be just wiped out. But we'll keep doing it. We'll get through it. I promise you. People have been so nice. And, yesterday I mentioned on the crosstalk with Matt Murphy, we showed the puppy on our little Super Talk TV circuit yesterday at 4:05. You should have seen the numbers of people who tuned into that thing.
Went through the roof.
I looked at it. It's roughly about 5 times larger than it normally is.
Wow.
Just because so many people tuned in. And, and I don't even have the total numbers because I just looked at one. But I can tell you that, you can forget all this talk about having politicians and important people on the show. If you really want to have great numbers, you just get yourself a newborn puppy.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah, I'll find other excuses, I'm sure, along the way.
Hey, look at this, everybody.
Hey, look at the puppy now. Day by day check-in with Solo, the new puppy. Solo is just doing great, though. And thanks for all the nice comments. 30 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
31 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. Right now, 57 degrees in Nashville. Sunny, clear day on Music Row. Traffic and a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. It's been 54 days since the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel, and the families of a number of hostages, including some Americans, are waiting in agony for the release of their loved ones. Liz Landers.
Families of Americans being held hostage by Hamas told reporters that they will meet with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Thursday as they advocate for the release of their loved ones. Ronen Nutra, father of Amer, an Israeli soldier being held hostage, told ABC News that a team from the FBI has been in close contact with their families since the October 7th attack. At least 9 Americans remain hostages. The families said they spoke with President Biden for 90 minutes on a Zoom call a few weeks ago.
And more hostages expected to be released today. House Speaker Mike Johnson says he'll leave it up to fellow Republicans to decide how they should vote when the question is called on a resolution to expel New York Republican George Santos. That is now expected to happen on Friday. Stephen Portnoy.
The House Speaker says he worries about setting a bad precedent.
I personally have real reservations about doing this.
Mike Johnson notes George Santos hasn't been convicted. His trial on counts ranging from wire fraud to identity theft is still pending. But Santos's fellow New York Republican and GOP conference chair Elise Stefanik has seen enough.
And this is a matter of, right and wrong.
Now that the Ethics Committee has found Santos stole from his campaign to fund his personal expenses, Stefanik says she believes the House will vote to expel him.
Right now in Nashville International Airport officials say they've listened to all of the traffic complaints from Thanksgiving, so they're going to try to do something to help make it better. Starting on Friday, B&A will offer free and reduced parking for pickup in terminal garage lots 1 and 2. The first half hour will be free. The hope is that curbside congestion will ease up. And in addition to free and reduced parking, TDOT says it's going to speed up work on Donaldson Pike. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
All right, have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you, hey, it'll be ready at 4 p.m., and then you get there at 4 p.m. and it's not ready. I mean, people get really tired of that kind of stuff. And if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. And Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's supposed to be ready, so you're not standing around tapping your toe and waiting. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. That's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of the dealership overhead, and that adds up to a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that if you don't have to? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty, plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Be sure you call ahead, as loaner cars are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. Eurofix, family-owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and I want to talk about some economic news. You say, oh, numbers and economics, that sounds dull. No, this is fascinating stuff because you think that elections don't matter. I know nobody within the sound of my voice believes that, but you do run into people who say, it doesn't matter, it's all one, big mess. No matter who's in charge. Well, it really does make a difference. And when you say, presidents, some people say, well, presidents don't really manage the economy. Well, no, they have a lot to do with the economy. And here's why. You can look at where we are as a country economically and then compare it to when we had a new president take over. So what was that, January of 2021, when Joe Biden raised his hand and took the oath of office and became president of the United States. So you use that as the date. Where were we then and where are we now? And you know what? When you add up some things, It explains why you and I are having a hard time making ends meet. From CBS News, the typical American household must spend an additional $11,434 annually just to maintain the same standard of living they enjoyed in January of 21 when Joe Biden took the oath of office, right before inflation soared to 40-year highs. This according to a recent analysis of government data. Such figures underscore the financial squeeze many families continue to face, even as the rate of inflation recedes and the economy by many measures remains strong, with the jobless rate at a 2-decade low. Even so, many Americans say they aren't feeling those gains, and this fall, more people reported struggling financially than they did prior to the pandemic. Inflation is the main reason. Americans express pessimism about the economy despite its bright points, which also includes stronger wage gains. But let's look at that. Average hourly pay for workers has increased 13.6%. You say, well, there you go. That's good. Yeah. But inflation since January of 2021 is about 17%. So the increase in salary is not keeping up with the rate of inflation over that time period. So you have to work harder just to stay at the same place you are. The main categories requiring heavier spending for consumers simply to stay in the same place they were include increased costs for food, transportation, housing, and energy, which together account for almost 80 cents in every dollar of additional spending. This according to the analysis from Republican members of the U.S. Senate Joint Economic Committee. Middle and low-income Americans aren't doing well enough. They are living fragilely on the edge, said Gene Ludwig, chairman of the Ludwig Institute for Shared Economic Prosperity, a think tank that whose own analysis found that the income needed to cover the basics fell short by almost $14,000. His numbers are higher than the government numbers. Highest place in the country to live right now, when you compare to where we were in 21, is Colorado for some reason. One of the lowest is Arkansas. But so here's the thing. The policies of this administration have led to an increase in the cost of everyday goods to the tune so that every average American household in America has to earn an extra $11,400 just to be where they were when Donald Trump left office. $11,400 extra dollars a year you need to make to stay where you were when Donald Trump was the president of the United States. And that's not all. Oh, wait, he said, there's more. Americans expect to pay federal taxes, but the federal government also picks the pockets in hidden ways. And President Joe Biden is making the problem worse in pursuing his political agenda. This according to the Competitive Enterprise Institutes, the CEI. This comes from thedailysignal.com. Listen to this. American households pay at least $14,000 in hidden regulatory costs every year, says Wayne Cruz, the Fred L. Smith Fellow in Regulatory Studies at the Institute. Instead of finding ways to cut those costs for Americans, President Biden's whole of government policymaking framework prioritizes political causes like climate change and equity in the regulatory process. The folks at CEI believe it is essential to increase transparency and accountability about the rulemaking process to make sure that the rulemaking agencies stick to their original mandates. See, the way you interpret the law changes from administration to administration, and all the agencies can make changes along the way. And when they do, it's sort of a hidden tax. It's a tax you don't know is hitting you because there's no way, it doesn't show up on your paycheck anywhere. While federal law requires an annual estimate of the cost of regulation, the federal government has not met that requirement since 2002. They just ignore it. While the Office of Management and Budget has estimated some cost and benefits of major rules, the report finds those analyses incomplete because they do not encompass all rulemaking in each year. So Cruz report uses a baseline of roughly $1.9 trillion for the cost of federal regulation, encompassing compliance cost, economic losses, losses in gross domestic product, social cost, and other costs. In other words, regulation chokes progress in the economy. It chokes the business world. And when they get hit with higher costs because of some regulation imposed by the federal government, well, they're going to pass it on to you, and you end up paying a hidden tax because of the regulatory impact that a president can have, an administration can have on money in the economy. Report notes that Biden has launched many whole-of-government interventions, most notably on climate change and rooting out inequity from our economy. Those efforts have accelerated a long-standing process that is replacing self-determination and limited government with top-down behavioral, social, and civil rights codes, and it costs you money. So inflation, since Joe Biden became president, has cost you about $11,434 on average. But when you add in the hidden costs of regulations that are imposed upon business world, then passed on to you through higher cost of the goods and services that you have, it's another $14,000. So that would be what, $25,000 that you got to come up with that you didn't have to come up with when Donald Trump was president. This all has happened since Joe Biden took office, and he's responsible for it no matter what they tell you. So, when they hear this, say, well, Bidenomics is working. Well, there are some things about Bidenomics that are, I got to give them credit. The job rate is low. I don't know if they can claim credit for that, but it is. The jobless rate is low. And all kinds of other things are happening. And it looks like maybe we will, at some point in the coming year, I don't think it's on the immediate horizon, interest rates may come back down. But when you add in $25,000 in costs due to inflation and the cost of the Biden administration's progressive regulatory programs, then you're talking about $25,000 that you didn't have to pony up when Donald Trump was president. Wow. I mean, honestly, what could you do with an extra $25,000? Think about that. And then consumer spending has continued remarkably resilient, writes CNBC. And though you have that 96% of Americans are concerned about the current state of the economy, there are indications that they are still spending money pretty vibrantly. And they call that doom spending. Spending money when you don't have it, which means, guess what? It stacks up on credit cards. It stacks up in loans, much like doom scrolling, where people sit around mindlessly going through the internet and to find things that concern them. Concerns about the economy and foreign affairs, which could take a toll on the financial well-being. They have a thing called doom spending, where you're spending money you don't really have, and the people who seem to be doing that more are Gen Zs and Gen Xers. Gen Z and millennials, are particularly susceptible to this mindset. Rather than cut expenses, 73% of Gen Zers say they would rather live in the moment, according to a recent Prosperity Index study. High inflation has made it particularly hard for those just starting out. More than half, 53% of Gen Zers, say the increased cost of living is a barrier to their financial success, according to a separate survey from Bank of America. When I hear people, I do want to say this, though. When I hear people say, oh, I can't make it, I don't know what I'm going to do, I can't make ends meet. And that's fine. I mean, in some cases, it really is a case of you really are struggling, and I get that. But in some cases, I look at it and I see, that's a very nice iPhone that you have there. What, you couldn't get a cheaper model? I mean, if you're really that tight, why do you have an iPhone? Why you look at that nice Apple laptop that they have, and I love Apple laptops, but I mean, I understand how expensive they are. When you can get a functional computer for a couple $100. So people just continue to spend money in some ways that they don't really have, and I really wonder when those chickens are going to come home to roost. Quickly. Economic news. and I don't know what this means, but it just caught my eye. It's something to think about and be aware of. Cigna and Humana are in talks for a blockbuster merger. The combination of the managed care providers would be huge, given Cigna's market value, which is about $83 billion, and Humana is about $62 billion. That would make them a major player. But what happens when there are fewer players? Competition goes away, and they can charge whatever they want to charge when there's not any competition. So I don't know whether that's going to go on, if it's going to happen, but something to watch. And again, we talked about this a lot. GM is now directing billions to investors, and the way that they are paying for that, because profits have not been sterling among the three automakers, and they got these big new labor contracts that they have to pay for, is that they are taking money from their EV plans. So what I'm coming to you again is another example of the EV evidence that the EVs are not selling, and they're in trouble because they've spent so much money trying to develop these EVs, and now they can't recoup their money. So now they are slowing down their EV development, and I mentioned that because, well, Tennessee is a place where they do a lot of that, and they're going to do more of it if Ford sticks with its current plan for Blue Oval City. 51 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Well, it's getting cold at night, and if you find out that your heat is on the blink, why don't you call the people I would call, the folks at Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing, 615-775-7833. They will buzz over to your hive, and they will get it working as quickly as possible. And here, I'm just going to tell you straight up that one of the ways you can avoid having that happen is to do regular preventative maintenance on your systems. And that's what the Beehive Club is all about. But you get a lot of things for that, $99 where it starts at $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. 1 aimed at heating, 1 aimed at cooling, 1 aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call? Go to paulwinkler.com. It's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
An elderly man stuck in a grain bin in Tennessee. Fire officials right now trying to help him. A 17-year-old Tennessee teenager dead after a stay at a youth group home. Crime in Tennessee and changes in length of life since the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll explain all at 4 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the markets here as we wind up hour number one of the drive. Dow Jones Industrial's up 13 points. S&P up down 4. NASDAQ is down 23. So mixed boards today. And Wednesday it was pretty flat, but the major averages are on track for pretty good gains through the month of November. Everybody is looking at these numbers that came out today with regard to gross domestic product. John Maxon is standing by over at Beacon Capital Management to talk about that and what else is moving the market today. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian, that's right. The market was pretty flat today, and I think that surprised a lot of people because the economy itself continues to surprise to the upside. Today, the GDP number from the third quarter was revised from 4.9, which was a strong number to start with, up to 5.2, and then personal consumption, which is one inflation number, was actually revised down to 2.3 versus 2.4. So a couple things happening. Inflation is definitely slowing, and the market now believes there's a high probability the Fed is done raising rates. But tomorrow, pay very close attention. The Fed's favorite inflation number comes out tomorrow, and then Jerome Powell speaks again on Friday. So really the market looking for direction. Next couple of days is going to be real key to that.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. And speaking of the aforementioned Beacon Capital Management, how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but there is a plan, or they can help you with a plan. Beacon Capital Management can assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance, and it starts with a simple phone call to this number. I'll give it to you several times, so if you miss it the first time, write it down as we get toward the end of this spot. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. They'll ask you some questions. They'll gather some information. They'll get back to you. You have nothing to lose in this whole process except for potential worry. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303, and you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. One more time, here's the number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 55 degrees in Nashville. Got a traffic report and a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Breaking from News 2, Lawrence County authorities are working to rescue a 70-year-old man from a grain bin. Both Lawrence County and Lawrenceburg fire officials are on the scene at a farm in Etheridge. We'll keep you updated with that story right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Staying in the volunteer state, a news conference today with the mother of a 17-year-old black teen who lost her life after a reported incident at Youth Villages, the youth group home where she resided in Bartlett, Tennessee. Witnesses claim a legend was brutally assaulted and choked before being transported to Methodist Germantown Hospital where she died. Here's the legend's mother, Shauna Garner.
At least give me my baby belongings. She has her daddy necklace that I want to bury her with. Her daddy committed suicide. The legend took that very hard. I want to bury that in my daughter's casket. Just give me my baby belongings on top of the truth.
Family attorney Ben Crump says that it is, quote, inhumane what happened to this child. Crime in Tennessee. Clarksville police have arrested 18-year-old William C.J. Barton in connection to multiple vehicle burglaries. Police found that Barton allegedly stole from 14 different cars. His bond has been set at $150,000, and law enforcement took the opportunity to continue to emphasize the importance of locking your vehicle and taking your key fob with you, along with safely and securely storing any firearms. 2 women under arrest accused of bypassing security at the Phoenix airport on Monday so they could catch their flight. Alex Stone has the details.
According to court documents, the 2 women entered Terminal 3 at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport by going through Do Not Enter signs. TSA confronted them. A security breach was declared, but the women allegedly kept walking past TSA officers saying they were late for a flight, and they kept going, saying they were not going to wait for security. An alert was issued notifying of an incident. Police caught up to the women who continued to say they were late for a flight. They were allegedly not apologetic. Both women were arrested.
And it's another sign of recovery from the pandemic. U.S. life expectancy is starting to tick upward. Figures released overnight by federal health officials shown an American child born today living about 13 months longer than one born during the pandemic, 74.8 years for males, 80.2 years for females. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hour number 2 of the drive now beginning. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. We're so glad that you are with us on this 29th day of November. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here. And we're really glad that you have chosen us as your traveling partner as you go from wherever it is you are to wherever you're ending up during the drive time hours of the day. Let's get started with some conversation about the border. Now, we talk about the border a lot, but I have always maintained that the reason that the Biden administration is doing everything they can to allow many people to come across the border illegally is that it's all political. That the major goal here is to transform the demographics of America to the advantage of Democrats. And they're willing to risk a lot in order to do that. We are less safe as a nation because of our insecure borders. And we have fentanyl coming across that is killing people left and right. there are 100 fentanyl deaths a day in America. And that adds up. And the fentanyl just keeps coming across. There are 1.8 million people coming across who didn't have any contact with law enforcement. And among them, I'm pretty sure some people who do not have our best interest at heart. Really bad people. And so, I've always said that they're willing to risk all that and for crass political reasons, because ultimately they want to find a way for those people who've come across illegally to get a pathway to citizenship. And by creating a crisis, they are hoping that eventually they can get America to turn to talk of amnesty or a pathway to citizenship for the, I don't know how many, maybe, 25, 30 million people who are in this country illegally. Who knows what the number is these days? It used to be, they used to say 18 million, but I think it's way above that now. And I catch a crap load of backlash from people who say, well, that's not what it's about. That's better. It's all economic. Well, you know what? Here is the proof of what I am saying. Yesterday, we told you that in an interview on a cable news channel, Alejandro Mayorkas, who's in charge of the Homeland Security Department, pretty much said the same thing. Our immigration system is broken, and we had a plan to fix all this, and Congress just won't act. They try to put it on Congress. Listen to what Mayorkas said, and then I'll tell you what he really means.
The answer is quite clear and quite straightforward, and we've been waiting for it for about 30 years, and that is to fix a system that everyone agrees is fundamentally broken.
Why does he think it's broken? It didn't seem to be broken when Donald Trump was president. We had a much more secure situation on the border then, right? But now all of a sudden it's broken. How is it broken?
And we need congressional action.
Okay, what kind of congressional action?
Both for the lawful pathways that really need to be more robust. First day in office, presented Congress with a proposal.
And in Congress just won't take it up. You know what the proposal is? A pathway to citizenship for the people that they're letting into the country. They come in illegally, and we're supposed to reward them by doing that, by making them citizens of the United States. What about the people who did it legally? How is that fair to them? See, that's what it's all about. Their ultimate goal here is to find a way to make these people who've come across the border illegally voting citizens, and the thinking is, on their side of the equation, hey, they're going to be very beholden to us Democrats because we have always supported them becoming U.S. citizens. That was Mayorkas. We played it on the show yesterday, a shortened version of the sound we played yesterday. Here is the Vice President of the United States in an interview. She's doing a sort of a town hall meeting with the people at the New York Times, Democrats talking to Democrats. And she says virtually the same thing.
First of all, I would say it's no surprise to anyone here that our immigration system is broken.
It's broken, he said. Well, it wasn't broken again during Trump.
It is. And one could talk about what happened over the previous 4 years we came in terms
it wasn't
of what may have been an intent to break our immigration system, but it needs to be repaired, and we are working on that in a way that we establish a safe and humane and orderly immigration system at the border. We need to facilitate legal and lawful immigration in the United States.
Yeah, so, we're going to let people come in, just here's America, go that way, it's north, and just disappear into the fabric of America, and then, just bide your time. Because we're going to find a way to do this. And if Democrats, get in a position where they can push this through, or if they feel like the entire system is so bad, and they made it bad, that, that they will have to do something, then, they're going to benefit from this. And then their whole idea is to just make sure that we find a pathway to citizenship.
We need to facilitate legal and lawful immigration in the United States.
Yeah, well, okay, we have a way that you can get into the United States that is both lawful and legal. And the millions of people that you've let across the border did not do it that way. What do you have to say? How can you defend that position? You have to read between the lines. We have a plan. The plan is amnesty. The plan is a pathway to citizenship. And, we just can't get Congress to go along with it. Well, thank goodness. So, that would be the wrong thing to do. You don't reward people whose first act is to violate a law of the United States by coming here illegally. And you know what? We got our Border Patrol down there, and they're overwhelmed. We told you about how the Tucson border is just, they've got so many people they can't even keep up with it coming across the border there. You got Eagle Pass, Texas, another big surge coming in. Trains are coming. Train loads full of people are coming up from central Mexico and from Central America, and it's just overwhelming. And so they've had to call in a lot of people to help them. Josh Hawley, in a hearing today, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri was asking one of the folks who's in charge of the FPS. What is that? Federal Protective Service. These are people who protect our government buildings and also, by the way, diplomat operations around the country. They do diplomatic security, help them out. And they apparently are taking people away from FPS to go down to the border.
Let me just ask you, given the unprecedented surge in illegal immigration that we're seeing, let me ask you two things here, time permitting. The first one is, we've had multiple DHS whistleblowers who are special investigators within DHS come forward to my office and I think others and allege that they were pulled off of their assignments investigating child abuse, child trafficking, fentanyl. They were pulled off of that and sent to the southern border in order to perform, in their words, menial tasks. I just want to know, have any FPS officers, to your knowledge, been reassigned to the southern border to help with migrant processing?
Yes, sir. We do have a number of FPS officers that are supporting CBP at the southern border in 2 locations, and that's going on today.
When you say assisting with processing?
Not processing. Let me explain what they're doing. So the Border Patrol, the goal is for us to support the Border Patrol so they can go back to do the work of the border. So our officers are transporting people to hospital appointments, to medical visits, to emergency rooms that may need for treatment. So the Border Patrol doesn't have to do that. They can focus on the border, and we're supporting them and escorting people to these appointments.
If I could just ask, where are these folks coming from who are transporting your agents? Where are they being taken from if they're now running people back and forth to the hospital and appointments and so forth?
Various locations throughout the country.
For example?
Boston, Chicago.
What would they otherwise be doing at those locations?
Federal facility protection.
So they're being pulled off of federal facility protection in order to go to the border and to take migrants to appointments.
Now, how does that make you feel, huh? Does that irritate you? It irritates me. Are our government facilities secure? I mean, what kind of facilities are we talking about? Less secure because we're pulling people out of those jobs to go to the border and to basically become a glorified taxi service for illegal immigrants who come into this country and need to go to their medical appointments, which I guess we're probably paying for. I mean, come on. This just gets worse and worse and worse the more we learn about it. We are less safe as Americans because of what is happening on the border in about 5 different ways. It's a human trafficking problem. It is a problem with the inflow of fentanyl to this country and other drugs to this country that are causing people to die. We have people who are on the terrorist watch list who have no doubt made their way into the country. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know what their plans are. And now our government facilities are less secure because we're taking Federal Protective Service officers off of the duty that they're supposed to have, which is protecting federal buildings and federal institutions, and we're sending them down to the border to become a glorified taxi service. It just goes on and on and on. This gets worse every time you learn a new element of it. I'm telling you, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And remember what it's all about. We had Kamala tell us today what it's all about.
First of all, we need to facilitate legal and lawful immigration in the United States.
That's right. We have to come up with an amnesty plan to reward people who have violated the law on their very first day in America. I don't agree with this on any level whatsoever. And again, it every time you learn a new element of this story, your jaw just drops open. How can anybody think this is a good idea? One other story from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. A panel of the Ninth Circuit Court has ruled that Miranda rights don't apply to warrant-backed civil immigration arrests, holding up an order to deport a Mexican citizen who had argued he was coerced into admitting his illegal status under an administrative warrant. Miranda rights are the formal warning given by law enforcement to individuals. You have the right to remain silent. If you refuse that right, you have a right to an attorney, blah, blah. You know the Miranda. You see them on the TV shows all the time. And they're given to people in custody, given their right to be silent and their right to an attorney. But the unanimous three-judge decision, the Ninth Circuit panel affirmed earlier rulings by an immigration judge and the U.S. Board of Immigration Appeals rejecting a case that was brought. The panel has observed this court has long held that the substantial distinction between a civil deportation proceeding and a criminal trial make Miranda warnings inappropriate in the deportation context. So Border Patrol agents who make arrest and ICE agents who make arrest do not have to read illegal immigrants their Miranda rights. It reminds me, you don't have any rights because you're not an American. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. T. King and Associate Insurance in Brentwood has been in business some 25 years there, and it is a great company, an independent agency, and that really gives you a couple of really amazing opportunities. When you do business with them, you're not doing business with a company like you find on the internet. There's two things about that are really problematic. Number one, you can't get a hold of a human being to help you with your problem for love nor money. Have you ever done that? You ever sat on the phone for hours? Well, you don't have to worry about that at T. King and Associates. I mean, 615-329-8121. You dial that number and you're going to get a human being. Not a call tree, not a recording, not somebody who says, please stand by. Your call is very important to us. If it's important, you'd have somebody answering it, wouldn't you? Well, they do. And then the other part of it is, as an independent agency, they can shop around and find a really appropriate policy that meets your needs better than the one-size-fits-all options you get with some of these other companies. You get a lot more bang for your buck. You get insurance that actually saves you money and gives you better coverage. That's the goal, isn't it? And they know all of the little tricks like bundling, where you can save a lot of money, 20, 25, 30, 35%. So listen, get your royal review with King and Associates Insurance. Log in to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance and Associates, royal treatment and great rates.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
Republican Congressman George Santos' expulsion vote pushed back to Friday. We'll also have today's money news. It's all coming up 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Very quickly, let me remind you that on December 7th from 4 to 8 p.m., we got a Super Talk live event over at Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina. We'll be talking about the year that we're leaving behind, or about to leave behind, and the year that is ahead, which will be full of all kinds of political coverage. Join Dan, Chris, Matt, and me, Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, as we broadcast live. It is free. I'm going to repeat that. Free. Don't ask me, where do I get tickets? Don't ask me, how much does it cost? Because there are no tickets, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's free.
What's the catch?
There's no catch. We just want to hang out with you. Details at 997WTN.com. It's going to be a fun event, and, it is going to be breezy. They got all kinds of, heaters and stuff over there that, will help keep you warm. But, it's going to be a brisk evening, so
dress
come
appropriately.
prepared. But we're hardy people here in Middle Tennessee.
Get a little helper with you.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Sure, they got something that could help warm you
I'm
up.
sure they have something over there at Cedar Creek Marina that will warm your spirits. However, we on the radio are not allowed to do that, so you'll be on your own. We'll have to stay relatively sober until 8 o'clock.
Well, you guys are so full of hot air, it shouldn't be a problem.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. I set myself up on that one.
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
That was right. Story out of Memphis, WREG. This is a story that I thought was very interesting. A man who went walking in his Midtown neighborhood holding what is essentially, I've seen pictures of it. It looks like an AR-15. Told the Memphis Police Department he was carrying the weapon because, well, Memphis is a dangerous place. And you know what? It is. They've got a real problem over there. That's according to a police report. It happened near, if you know Memphis, that doesn't mean anything to me, Peabody Avenue near Cooper Street. People saw this man walking down the street with an AR-15, and neighbors started freaking out. Wasn't doing anything wrong. He just happened to have an AR-15, which he legally owned, by the way. And they start calling police, and there was a lockdown of a nearby preschool and elementary. I just kept picturing him sitting outside my daughter's school and shooting at them, one person posted on Facebook, above a photo of the man that circulated on social media. The man who was pictured in the photos was Derek Wynn, according to an address and phone number on file with the Shelby County Election Commission from Wynn's campaign for Memphis mayor this year. He ran for mayor. On Wednesday, November 29th, Wynn sent a text message to News 2's sister station, WREG, saying that he had been followed by people stalking him on his route to work. He walked to work, and he said, I felt like I was being followed and stalked. And this is what he said. I overreacted and open carried on my way to and from work, and people freaked out. To be honest, I don't blame them. Not going to happen again. Well, I'll tell you what, to me, look, I'm not likely to need to have a AR-15 to go down and get a cup of coffee in downtown Watertown. And I wouldn't do that. But honestly, there's a lot of people in Watertown who are like me. We have concealed carry permits. So what's the diff, baby? Except that you can see one and you can't see the other. And I don't think he should apologize. If he feels unsafe in Memphis, and Memphis has a reputation for becoming a very ugly place these days, then you do what you need to do. Police said they received 2 calls less than an hour apart. They responded but could not find the man. They arrived at his house, said the man who lived there admitted he was carrying the rifle, had no intention of harming anyone. He said he was carrying the rifle for protection. Authorities did a background check, no criminal history. In addition, officers did not notice signs of mental illness. Police returned the rifle to the man. No charges were filed. In most cases, it is legal in Tennessee to openly carry a weapon. His mayor race didn't go very well. He only got 57 votes. He ran on a platform of abolishing zoning. Okay. But one way or the other, I don't think he needs to apologize. It's 4:30 now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
4:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently sunny on Music Row, 52 degrees. Expecting some rain later on this week. We'll tell you about it. Full weather forecast coming up. Traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, a formal vote in the House to expel Republican Congressman George Santos of New York set for tomorrow. We've now learned the vote's been pushed back to Friday. Derek Dennis.
Time may be running out for New York Congressman George Santos, who has stayed in office, refusing to resign after admitting to lying about much of his resume and personal story to get elected, and then indicted on 23 federal charges of fraud, theft, and lying to federal election officials. But the vote is controversial. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson expressing concern about removing Santos from office without him being convicted of anything.
I personally have real reservations about doing this.
And GOP Representative Elise Stefanik said that, quote, his constituents deserve to elect someone new who's not a fraud. And figures released overnight by federal health officials show an American child born today living about 13 months longer than one born during the pandemic, 74.8 years for males, 80.2 for females. And with the rise of domestic violent extremism and lone wolf attacks, senators in Washington held a hearing about the security around federal buildings across the nation. Liz Landers.
The Senate Homeland Security Committee held a hearing Wednesday on keeping federal buildings across the country safe. Chairman Gary Peters says that current security recommendations are oftentimes ignored in the more than 9,000 federal buildings nationwide. Chris Klein, the Director of Federal Protective Services at the Department of Homeland Security, on his department's work.
Just this calendar year, we have prevented more than 15,000 dangerous weapons, including more than 500 firearms, from entering federal facilities.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I want to tell you about the folks over at USS. Good, honest people who can help you if you have major problems with things like waterproofing or foundation repair, the cracking bricks, the sticking windows, the doors, the cracks in the walls. You know what it is. If you've got that problem, well, you just need to pick up the phone and call this number, 615-488-7855. And the folks at US will come out to your house, and they're not there to upsell you or scare you, or they're just going to give you honest information about what's going on and how they can fix it. And I've got all kinds of glowing recommendations from people who have gone through the process. I mean, Jerry said this is the best crew we've ever worked with to do work on our home. Constance said it was an excellent experience. It put me at ease in the entire process. Others have, just go on and on with the most glowing reviews. So they'll just come out, they'll assess your situation, they'll tell you what we really need to do to fix the problem, and then you make the decision. And if you go forward, you won't pay a penny until the job is done, and you are completely satisfied. And I'm telling you, I think you will be. And by the way, no upselling, really good, honest people. Contact USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Or call this number, 615-488-7855. 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. And it's one of my favorite things we do here on The Drive. We sit down and have a conversation with Pete Hegseth, the weekend host of Fox and Friends Weekend Edition. And also, when he's not doing that, he's a resident right here in Middle Tennessee, lives up in Sumner County. And good afternoon, Pete. How was your holiday?
Good afternoon, Brian. It was wonderful. Wonderful. We loved it, just relaxed, did nothing, and it came off the Patriot Awards, which was great at the Opry, and so I can't complain.
Yeah, you were very busy then, and then you got to take a little break, we took a break and let you off the hook so you could spend time with family, which of course is the right thing to be doing. And did you get enough turkey, and did you do dressing?
Always dressing,
yeah,
and I've had it 6 times since Thanksgiving as lunch or dinner.
Yeah, you make a little extra. That's the best, the way you do it.
Yes.
Listen, I want to talk to you about something going on here in the state of Tennessee, because I know you have a deep passion about this topic, and that is making sure that kids have a good opportunity to find a good education when there are many public schools in this state and elsewhere around the country that are just simply failing their students. The governor announced his new his voucher program. It will eventually expand to all 95 counties and any student in the state who wants to take advantage of it. And already, the slings and arrows are coming from predictable locations. But really, you're a big supporter of this concept, aren't you?
Yes. I mean, seeing that news was like an early Christmas gift. I don't need anything for Christmas. It is exactly what the governor should be doing, what the speaker should be doing. Other states across the country have done it. And part of the reason Tennessee is doing it, and better late than never, is that where it is done, it is immensely popular because people want options. They want out of schools that don't work, and it's government's job to get out of the way and allow parents to direct their tax dollars either to public schools if they like them, or to private schools or home schools. So I love this. I've already been in touch with the few folks that I know over there in the legislature saying whatever I can do to help, because this is the kind of thing a Republican-controlled state legislature should be doing. It creates competition, so schools need to compete for dollars and students. Everyone wins in that scenario. So it's going to be a predictable fight, but it's popular with voters, and that's why Republicans who are advancing this have to just have a backbone, stand up for what it means. It is incremental, but eventually it looks like it would become nearly universal, which is what it should look like.
Yeah, in 25, 26, that's the way it looks to me. Let me just ask you, though, you've seen these battles take place around the country, and you say the opposition comes from predictable locations. Let's talk a little bit about those predictable locations and how much noise they're going to make with this.
Oh, it's unions. It is the power of unions. And it is the power of the amount of money that unions – I was at an education event a couple of months ago, and I think it was North Dakota or North or South Dakota, where a state legislator came up and said they identified the 2 or 3 seats, and she was one of them, that could be flipped that would change the trajectory of this education bill. And normally they spend about $80,000 on a House race. They spent $2.5 million to try to defeat her.
Wow.
I mean, they're going to throw everything at these opponents, and trying to placate them is what they want, but ultimately you're going to get beat in a Republican primary anyway. And thankfully, she won. She won that race with support from other allies. So both sides are going to bring out the big guns, but it's going to be unions. They're going to be ferocious. And you can't let them mischaracterize the situation.
Well, and you also run into things like, the different school districts around the state who, are worried because, we're changing things. It's not the same old status quo. Oh, they get really nervous, and then the teachers get upset, and then, the superintendents and the school boards all get worried about it, and they put pressure on their local state representatives. I mean, I hope that Republicans will remain strong. But there's going to be a lot of pressure brought to bear on individual Republicans who, they're going to try to pick off 2 or 3 and see if they can change the direction of this thing because it's so predictable that people don't like change.
And they're going to get Republicans that unions think they can get in their pocket, who will sit on the bill for reasons of funding or reasons of, I have a rural district and there aren't options. All of those things get addressed when the market responds to these changes. And so let's talk about test scores in Memphis or test scores in some places of Davidson County. Compare that status quo to the option to do better. And it's not hard. You just got to have guts. And Republicans, you know this state better than I do. I hope there's enough guts in the Republican Party in Tennessee to see this fight through.
Well, I know the pressure will be brought to bear. But, it seems to me, though, that we lose sight in these conversations. It's all about, money for schools, and we're talking about, public schools are going to take a hit, and they're afraid of competition. What's wrong with a little competition? But one way or the other, what we need to be talking about and what the focus should always be on, and it won't be, is what's best for the children in the state of Tennessee.
Yes, and the parents. I mean, my kids go to a wonderful rural classical Christian school full of blue-collar people that scrape up the money to send their kids there because they believe in the trajectory of their kids. If the option for $7,000 of my property taxes and others to be directed actually toward the parent and toward the kid, schools like ours, which I think is the standard, would be flush with new people who want out, but they can't afford it. That's what everyone should have access to, and the market will respond to that. New schools will be started because tuition is such a problem for small schools. Parents can't pay for it. But parents want what's best for their kids. They just feel stuck. So you're right. You got to put the kids, just like the VA and veterans, you got to talk about vets. You got to talk about kids, not the bureaucracy or the public school system.
And education and discussion is always should always focus on kids and not the bureaucracy. And it's so many times it seems like reporters lose their way in that regard. I want to talk to you a little bit about. We're headed. We're 47 days before the voting begins in this election cycle. And, there was a big endorsement for Nikki Haley the other day from the Koch brothers, and she's going to have a lot of money. But, I mean, I don't think anything really changes in the lineup on the Republican side of the equation. Do you? I mean, Donald Trump is like, in Iowa, he's 30 points ahead. That's big.
It's over. And it's also not 10 years ago where a Koch endorsement mattered. There's the base of the Republican Party isn't looking to the Kochs to see who their candidate should be. If anything, they're running against that, or DeSantis is effectively paying for endorsements in Iowa from Vanderplat. This race is over unless something ground shifting changes. And so look at January 5th. I think it's January 5th is the Iowa caucuses, and then January 15th, and then January 23rd is New Hampshire.
Right.
And by then, I just think people are going to have to see the writing on the wall. And right now, it's Haley and DeSantis shooting at each other. They're not even shooting at Trump because there's nothing they can do about Trump steamrolling through those states. They want to become the second choice to try to hope something changes. They're betting on the efficacy of the deep state or the judicial system. But Republican voters aren't buying it. The polls are just as strong as they've been for Trump throughout. And I think you're going to see a romp. I think everything else is just talking about the JV team right now.
And the Democrat side of the equation, I still can't believe they're going to go forward with Joe Biden, but they're running out of time if they're going to make any changes.
You and me both. I still don't see where it comes from. It'll be an interesting debate on Fox News tomorrow night between DeSantis and Gavin Newsom. That'll be interesting.
Yep.
Gavin's shadow campaign continues. I mean, the numbers are horrible. Their campaign is non-existent. He's more incapable by the day. His track record is terrible. We expect the unexpected. Expect the convention, switcheroo, something like that's going to happen because they can't have Joe.
Yeah, I the more and more I think about it, I think that you're right about that. That if it's going to happen, it will happen at the convention at the very last moment, when the concerns about Joe Biden just become overwhelming. Every day you see these stories where Democrats are citing how nervous they are about the plan, and when you look at the polls, I can't find a poll where Joe Biden is leading in a significant way. I see a lot of polls where Trump is leading. A general election polls, we don't elect presidents with popular vote, but it is an indication of where the population is, and especially in some of these swing states where Trump is doing very well.
Oh, and now he's at war with his own party over Israel and Hamas. And in some of these key states, those numbers actually matter for his base. He's got a huge enthusiasm gap. The majority of Democrat voters think he's too old, think he hasn't done a good job, but they're counting on a hold the nose and vote for Joe and not Trump. I just think standard problem is, we've talked about this before, the decision comes down to Joe and Jill. Joe and Jill and the family protection racket that they're running right now that they think works better with them at the top. But the pressure, if the grassroots are arriving at the convention demanding a new candidate, I think the calculation starts to change.
Speaking of the Bidens, Hunter Biden, is playing this little game with his attorney, Abby Lowell, saying he doesn't want to do a closed-door deposition like everybody else has to do. He's willing to come into an open committee meeting and have it be that way. But when you do that, half of the committee hearing will be protection being run by the Democrats. I mean, they will do everything they can to muddy the waters, and you don't really get the information you need. Do you think that that Hunter Biden will eventually show up, and will it be done in a timely way?
Yes, I think he will eventually show up. Will it be done in a timely way? Probably not. Comer seems to not be caving on the initial deposition behind closed doors, which, as you state, is the standard practice. Because with that first deposition, you tee up the opportunity for real questions in public that allow for confirmation of what was said in private in public. Otherwise, it's just going to be a circus. Like, we've seen these things before. It's half and half. And so they'll play out the clock to try to get that. But ultimately, I think there's no reason why House Republicans wouldn't go to the mat on this. Why not?
Yeah. I think they should, but it will drag it out a little bit. The other thing is Abby Lowell. He's wily.
Oh, Hunter's got a good lawyer, and they're going on the offense. I mean, they know he's the under the bus guy if need be. So he's trying to save his hide, hiring the best campaigns best lawyers that China can pay for, and he's going to do what he can.
All right, Pete Hegseth, it's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend.
Thank you, Brian. Always
Talk to you soon.
it.
All right, it's 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, the date is November 29th, and the 30 days have September, April, June, and November, so you've got today and tomorrow just take advantage of this amazing offer from the Wellness Institute of Nashville. It's a two-patient deal. Two patients, you can get your appointment, an exam, x-rays, 2 treatments, $23, because it's 2023, and they're doing this during the month of November. I mean, listen, it could be you and your spouse, you and a friend, you and a family member, you and somebody that you meet at the mall. I mean, it doesn't matter as long as you book your appointments together. So you've got to book them now. The deal is about to run out, and you need to take action now. Call this number, 615-246-5009. If someone in your life has been talking about tingling or numbness or weakness or back pain, if you have heard the terms used to describe your particular situation as having bulging discs or disc herniation or spinal stenosis, they have therapies that and can really make a big difference. I know because I've gone through it. So listen, if you there's no reason to take quality of life issues and not be able to do the things that are so routine for most of people because you have back pain or knee pain. Take advantage of the Wellness Institute's 2-patient exam, x-rays, treatments for $23. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies, and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call? Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
Hostage negotiations in Gaza. A 1-year-old Tennessee child left near multiple drugs, including methamphetamines. An FBI car jacked in the nation's capital. Plus, the latest money news from Wall Street. 5 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, the folks over at B&A have apparently decided that cell phone lot that's way up on the about 3 miles from the airport, it's not really working out because nobody wants to park over there. So they have come up with a short-term plan to ease traffic congestion before the next holiday crush comes. They're gonna add free short-term parking. So you can go there, park your car, go into the walk over and greet your friends, and as they come in off the plane, and then walk them back over to where your car is. I think that's a good plan. I think that's.
Yeah, I think so.
That would, because it was really apparently during Thanksgiving was really quite a mess over there. So good on you, BNA, for trying to figure that one out. And again, I think those are pretty smart people over there, BNA, and I think that airport is coming along beautifully. It's really nice. 57 minutes now past the hour of 4:00 on Super Talk 99.7. We have some big news from the folks at DT McCall's just in time for the holidays. I mean, Dad would love this. If you've been thinking of buying a gun safe but putting it off, now is the time. Gun safe are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free, and you should take advantage of that. Even though it's hunting season, you need to make sure you're keeping your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a gun safe from DT McCall. You may not know it, but DT McCall's is the largest Liberty Safe dealer in all of Tennessee. And the reason is their policy on delivery and setup. Listen to this. This makes a difference. Others charge $500 at least for delivery and setup of the bigger models, $300 for the smaller models. DT McCall & Sons delivers every safe free, every time period, never a setup charge. Security is so important these days, and you need to think about this because gun safes can be used for things other than guns. Valuables. Cash, mama's jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now by going on your gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now. A clear afternoon headed into this evening right now. 48 degrees in Nashville. Got a traffic report and a weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. Biden administration officials say they are working with their partners in the Middle East to get the pause in fighting in Gaza extended until all of the hostages held by Hamas are released. Here's more from Selena Wang, who's at the White House.
The White House has issued its most forceful statement to Israel, saying that they need to be surgical and targeted in their approach to avoid displacing more Palestinian people and to avoid this from turning into a worse humanitarian crisis. U.S. officials also say that the U.S. has made clear to Israel that they want this increased amount of humanitarian aid getting into Gaza to remain that way even when the fighting resumes. And U.S. officials say that so far in their conversations with the Israelis, they have been receptive.
And at least 9 Americans are being held hostage still by Hamas in Gaza, and families of some of those 9 were in Washington today advocating for the release of their loved ones. Crime right now in Tennessee. Fox 17 reports that Reagan Guffey and her boyfriend Justin Brumley were arrested for exposing their 1-year-old child to multiple drugs, including meth. Officers saw multiple bags of what was confirmed to be methamphetamine in the door of their minivan, along with meth, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, fentanyl, Percocets, ecstasy, and oxycodone pills were also found, plus 3 handguns and almost $500 in cash. All of the drugs and guns were close to that 1-year-old child. And after a brazen carjacking in Washington, D.C., it would seem not even the FBI is safe. Here's Dave Packer.
The FBI special agent was driving a blue Chevy Malibu when sources say just a mile east of the U.S. Capitol, a gun-wielding carjacker stole the car. Inside the agent's body armor and radio, the agent unharmed. The car recovered near the Anacostia River. It comes as Washington, D.C. experiences an unprecedented surge in carjackings. 900 already this year, 77% of them involving guns, 65% of them committed by juveniles.
And now over to the money news, Daria Albinger.
Stocks drifted to a mixed close. The Dow rose 13 points and Nasdaq fell 23, and the S&P gave up 4. Earnings season is in full swing. Salesforce reporting better than expected numbers after the close. Drops in several big tech companies offset gains in other parts of the market. Facebook parent Meta fell 2%, while Alphabet, the parent company of Google, gave up 1.6%. General Motors jumped 9.4% after the automaker announced a big stock buyback, raised its dividend, and said it wouldn't have any trouble absorbing the cost of its new labor contract. GM stock is still down, though, more than 6% for the year. Bank stocks rose as Treasury yields fell. Electric vehicles are still a work in progress, and a new survey by Consumer Reports finds EVs from the 2021 through 2023 model years had nearly 80% more problems than conventional cars and trucks.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. bringing you news and information for, a couple more hours. We got 2 hours to go, 2 down, 2 to go. And we've got a lot of stuff to share with you. I just saw this video. It's a shame sometimes we don't. Well, I mean, we can put you a link up, but we can't play out video that we see elsewhere sometimes, and I wish we could, because Joe Biden got off the plane. I think it's in Pueblo, Colorado. I need to double check the location, but he gets off the plane. He's out there doing an event. Walks down. He's in a smaller plane. I don't know why. Maybe he's been flying lately in a smaller plane. But he comes down the stairs, maybe the easier stairs to navigate. I don't know, one way or the other. Comes down the steps of the smaller plane. And normally, there's always like a greeting party of people, local officials, and you got to say hello to them. And they're all very excited. I mean, I can tell you, I've been to hundreds and hundreds of these things over the years. And they're always really excited. Oh, the President of the United States, Air Force One. And they're just jonesing for their moment to shake the president's hand. And he apparently was unaware that he was supposed to stop and talk to him, but he's walked past a whole delegation of people like they didn't matter. Can you imagine how deflated they are? And, here we are to support you, Mr. President, and you just walk right by us and don't even look our direction. This guy, I'm telling you, makes we had this conversation with Pete Hegseth a moment ago. I don't know how in the world they're going to negotiate it, but I think it's going to happen at the convention now. I'm more and more inclined to believe that Biden's going to see how far he can get, but if he gets to the convention and it's clearly he's in the hole and it doesn't look very good, I think that they'll do the old switcheroo at the convention, brokered convention, and the power brokers will have a big say. Power brokers in the Democrat Party actually have more sway. Remember the old super delegate thing and all of that? Yeah, I mean, they have a lot more sway over the process than they do in the Republican Party. And so, the whole idea is that to give the Democrats give you the image that this is a fair and an equally, an equal process, that everybody who's there as a delegate has the same level of clout. That's not really true. And so I'm thinking that maybe they'll pull a fast switcheroo at the convention. It cannot be Kamala. It just can't. And so the other option would be Gavin Newsom or maybe somebody who emerges that we don't see yet. But I just don't think that they're going to continue the way this thing is going. Real Clear Politics. I love the folks at Real Clear Politics. I think they play it straight up the middle. But they do mostly an aggregate sort of a website where they bring in some thoughtful commentary from this newspaper or this magazine or this website, and then they give you the poll numbers. What they do is they take all the polls in and then average them out. And, that has a history of being fairly accurate. But occasionally they have some really smart people over there who do analysis. And I found this piece that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you as we talk about 2024 being just now 47 days away. The process starts. There's a strange disjunction in the discourse about the 2024 elections. On one hand, when presented with the proposition Trump can win, people will nod their heads sagely and say something along the lines, of course he can, only a fool would believe to the contrary. At the same time, whenever polling emerges showing that Donald Trump is performing well in 2024 matchups, a deluge of panic articles, tweets, social media posts, and the like emerge, reassuring readers that polls aren't predictive and providing a variety of reasons that things will improve for President Biden. As the saying goes, action speaks louder than words. Election analysts seem to know that they are obliged to mouth the words that Trump can win, but deep down they don't believe them. The notion that Biden is the favorite is deeply internalized for a variety of reasons. So, they write over at realclearpolitics.com, let us set the record straight. Trump can win. Not in a maybe if all the stars align and then Russia changes the vote totals, even somehow in states like Michigan that use hand-marked paper ballots kind of way. Just no, flat out, Trump can win. And as of this writing, Trump leads Biden by 2.6 percentage points nationally in the Real Clear Politics average. This is Trump's largest lead in the RCP average to date, not for 2024, mind you, but forever. Let's put this in perspective. In 2016, Trump led Hillary Clinton for all 5 days in the national average, for all of 5 days in the national average of the RCP average, each of those days in the immediate aftermath of the Republican convention. So in all of 2016, 5 days, Trump led. He led in 29 polls, taking over the course of the entire campaign, 10 of which are recorded in the RCP averages as the Los Angeles Times USC tracking polls. In 2020, Trump never led Biden in the national RCP average. He briefly closed to within 4 points in early January, but that's as close as he came. He led in 5 polls all cycle. That's not good. So counting the LO Team's tracker as a single poll, Trump led in a total of 24 national polls this cycle. He's led in twice as many in mid-September. He's led in more polls in the past 3 weeks than he did against Biden in all of 2019 and 2020. In other words, if you look at the polls and where we are now, he is far ahead of where we were in the election that he won in 2019. He's led in more polls in the last 3 weeks than he did against Biden in all of 2019 and 20. You may be thinking that we don't elect our presidents via the popular vote, but rather do so through the Electoral College. This, of course, is true. It also makes Trump's current position in the polls all the more striking. After all, Trump has consistently outperformed his polling, and his Electoral College positioning has consistently been stronger than his national positioning. See, there's something about the Trump factor. There are people who will vote for Trump who won't say to a pollster that they're going to vote for Trump. That doesn't mean that this will all necessarily hold in 2024, and at some point, the GOP's worsening position in the suburbs will reverse the Electoral College dynamic that has plagued Democrats for the past few cycles. But we can look at state-level polling as well. In 2016, Trump somewhat infamously never led a poll in Wisconsin. He was never within more than 3 points of Clinton there. He led in a single poll in Michigan and a single poll in Pennsylvania. He led in North Carolina, never exceeded 2 points in the RCP averages, while in Florida, his largest lead was 1.2 points. We're talking about 2016 there. Okay? So he didn't show up in those polls as doing well, but hey, guess what happened? In the 2020 comparison is even more striking. Trump led Biden in Florida briefly in October and March of that year. In Arizona, he was the same story. North Carolina, a little better for Trump, as he led in the RCP averages perhaps a quarter of the time. In Ohio, Trump led in only 6 poll cycles. He's led in 5 polls in Pennsylvania. In Michigan, it was 5 polls. In Wisconsin, it was 4. You know, what this article is making, the point here, the larger point that they're making here is, look at 2016 and where he was in the polls. You know, the polls did not particularly look good for him a lot of the time, yet he won. In 2020, he did not look very good in the polls, and he lost. This time, the polls are looking very strong for him, and we're wondering what it means. I think it means what they said in the beginning. Trump can win this thing. What does state polling show today? Trump leads in the RCP average in Michigan for the first time ever. Pennsylvania, he leads for the first time ever and has led in the most polls. He narrowly trails Biden in Wisconsin, but has already led in almost as many polls as he led in the state in 2016 and 2020 combined. Florida, Trump has led or tied in every poll, including some double-digit leads. Arizona, he leads by 5 in the RCP average. In Georgia, he leads by 6. In Ohio, polling is sparse, but he leads by 10. In other words, analyzing the election correctly isn't just the matter of giving lip service to the notion that Trump can win this election. The correct position right now is that Trump is better positioned in the polls to win this election than any GOP nominee since at least 2004. Not only that, he habitually overperforms his polls. I mean, that's true. He usually does better than the polls show him doing. Frankly, if you're willing to set favorites this far out, you should almost certainly declare Donald Trump as the favorite. Does that mean that Trump will win the presidency? Absolutely not. There are good arguments and perceptions. While the economy may improve between now and then, although maybe it won't. Perhaps Trump will underperform the polling this time, as the GOP did in 2022. There are good arguments that Trump's criminal trials will erode his standing. I don't think that's true, but you can make the argument. These all make for fun speculation and useful reminders that if a week is a lifetime in politics, then a year is, well, a very, very long time. When conversation returns to what we do know, there honestly is only one correct answer. Trump can win this election and is well positioned at this point to do so. This comes from Sean Trendy, and I really like Sean Trendy. He has a way of looking at the numbers and just cutting through the BS. He's a senior elections analyst for Real Clear Politics and co-author of the 2014 Almanac of American Politics, author of a book called The Lost Majority, and he has a good bead on this stuff. He really does. And look, if you dig politics as much as I do, and I know there are many of you who get weary of my talking about polls, but you really should look, if you're invested in this thing, look pretty seriously at Real Clear Politics as the season gets closer and closer and we get into it. They have a real a bunch of things that sort of lay out how Congress is going to do, how the Senate and the House are going to do, and they bring you all the polls and then they give you the averages, which I think is a good way to look at it. So I never, ever start a show without looking at realclearpolitics.com, and Sean Trendy over there, I think, is a pretty sharp cat. I think he really has a good grip on things, and he's not going to blow smoke, and he's going to tell you what he honestly thinks. Is it possible that Trump could lose this thing? Anything is possible. But when you look at all of these polls in aggregate, and you look at all the numbers and you compare them, where were they in 2020? Where were they in 2016? This election cycle, Trump is outperforming what he did in 2016 and certainly outperforming what he did in 2020 by a dramatic amount. I think Americans have made a decision. They've looked at Biden, they've lived with Biden, and they don't like what they're getting with Biden. They remember, okay, maybe there were some mean tweets and, maybe, the bombastic nature of Donald Trump from time to time set them off, was a little offsetting, but they remember that they were doing well, the economy was doing well, we weren't, involved in all of these conflicts around the country. We didn't embarrass ourselves in Afghanistan. We had a border that was more secure, and people were prosperous. They remember all that. It wasn't that long ago. It's amazing how quickly the world has gone to hell in a handbag with this current president, and I think people have come to that conclusion. Okay, we'll have to put up with some mean tweets, but let's get back to having a country that is at least safer than it was and is economically on the correct path. 20 minutes now past the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
I wanted to touch on the history of Tethered and kind of how it came about.
There was a handful of us that were already using similar equipment. At the time, however, you couldn't just go to the store and buy saddle equipment. It just didn't exist. And selfishly, we just were making gear that nobody else would make for us and that we wanted ourselves. And our goal was just to make enough to break even. Fortunately for everybody involved, it took off. It's got an appeal. People really liked it.
When you think of a saddle, that's what I think of. That's the first name that I think of when I hear about a saddle.
For me, the reason I got into it was I'm hunting public land, and most of the time I'm going pretty deep. Being lightweight and mobile was huge. I walk in with a pack and my bow. That's it. The more I did it, I was like, man, there's so many features here that are helping me improve as a hunter, where I can take different shot angles and stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I feel safe with this rope all the time.
Yeah.
From the ground up, I'm hooked in. If I fall off this thing, I'm just going to swing a little bit. And I think the learning curve is small. It's just about getting comfortable with your equipment. It's the biggest thing. And for me, it's repetition and then fine-tuning that to meet my needs. And that's the cool thing. What I like and what might meet my needs might be a little different from you. And even though we're doing the same thing, you can tweak it to meet your needs. And I really like that aspect about it.
But we've done a really good job of just innovating and creating products that don't exist. You're seeing the growth of the sport. You're seeing the innovation. And you're seeing all of these cool things that we make, and it's because we actually use it.
More hostages released by Hamas today, vehicle theft in Tennessee, and license plate readers helping find a group of wanted criminals. Those stories coming up at 5:30. I'm Mac Maury on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports. And now here is the host of your program. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. It's Mac Maury, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo! Hey, hump day.
All right. Yeah, the crowd is especially enthusiastic today.
They're ready for it today.
That's right. Well, I didn't get a memo today, so I don't know what we're talking about. But I trust, Mac, that you are on the cutting edge of whatever's happening in the wide world of sports.
That's right. And, the crowd is so excited because they know. They have an idea of what we're talking about today. They're fiending for this content. It's been a while, Brian and Chris, since we've done a Trey update. Travis and Taylor Swift update, because now there is some new information.
I'll be back in a few minutes, guys.
I know everyone's just so excited. Well, the Daily Mail put out a story today that says Taylor Swift has moved into Travis Kelce's new mansion that he bought when they first started dating. He bought a $6 million mansion, a little more privacy. Yeah. And they found a moving truck in the front this morning. And Taylor Swift just finished off her South America leg of her tour. She has 2 months free.
Yeah.
So she's going to be spending the next couple months with Travis and KC at the new mansion.
Wow. She's going to be a resident of Kansas City for a while.
I know, that's nuts.
Well, I mean, crazy. But I saw a thing. Taylor has a jet.
Oh yeah,
and she can go anywhere she wants to go. So living in any place for her, it's easy because you can be anywhere else in the country in a couple of hours.
Oh, yeah, with the PJ. No, she's good to go wherever she wants to go. But very, very exciting. I mean, this is kind of, I don't know, exciting as a old Kansas City. And it's just kind of crazy to think about, like, one of the biggest stars in the world is now living where it's just really weird. But
not that you'd ever see her out anywhere.
No, of course not.
She wouldn't do anything like that.
No, and if they did go out, just like they did when they first started dating a couple months ago in Kansas City, they rented out the restaurant so no one else was there. That's what, of course, what they'll do. I expect. But yeah, that reminds me to tell you guys, I'll be missing some time here from work because I've got to go to my girlfriend's $6 million mansion, actually. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I've got to spend some time over there.
Yeah, spend a couple months there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So sorry, guys.
It's understandable.
Honestly, though, that's a big deal because I don't know that I can ever recall her actually moving in with somebody.
No, I know.
That's a good point. Yeah, but she just may have been impressed with his taste in the mansion that he bought. And said, "Yeah, I can handle this for a little bit."
Yeah, his furniture that he buys, like, wow, that's actually that's not exactly. He
probably just goes to IKEA. I'm guessing he's a guy.
He probably did not pick out a couple of brown recliners like someone I
Oh,
know.
that's a very delicate conversation. We can't have that.
Oh, I'm sensing some personal sentiment there. That's fantastic. No,
well,
yeah. So
is he the one?
That's what I'm saying.
Are we going to have, 6 months and then later she puts out a new album where she trashes her old boyfriend?
Well, that's the thing, I think at this point, because I think it was pretty popular take at the beginning of this, that this was a PR stunt and this was all just a whole facade for money, for publicity.
Look,
this isn't that.
I think they genuinely like each other. If you've seen that little clip of video that she didn't know anybody was recording, she sees him backstage after a show, and she runs to him, and just jumps up on him and gave him. She's sort of an effusive individual anyway.
Yes,
but it seems like she was really excited to see him, and it seemed very genuine. I think
maybe she's matured. I had to look it up. She's 33. So she's not a kid anymore. She's not a young woman anymore. She should be a mature adult at this point. So
same age as Travis.
Maybe she's ready to settle down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about Mac? What about you? Are you ready to settle down?
We're getting a lot closer
and
here.
going over to that $6 million mansion.
Yeah, if Anna had a $6 million mansion, I think we'd already be there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually very near to the settling down point, Brian. That's actually very interesting question.
Oh, do we have news? I mean, now I'm going to be like Pamela Furr, Miss Nosy Butt. Yeah, I mean, come on.
It's I think after the new year, I think there will be some very exciting news in that regard, in that category. Yes,
Wheels are turning, is
yes,
what you're saying.
That's all I'll say.
Oh,
yeah. In the next couple of months, you just keep your ears out. You'll hear about it in the newsroom. It'll be a headline.
Okay, good. I'm excited for you. All right, 5:30 now. Time to take off the sports hat, put on the news hat, because it's news time on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 48 degrees this evening in Nashville. Got a full weather forecast. Latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. A new hostage released today in the temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Israeli officials say 16 more hostages, including an American with dual citizenship held in Gaza, are now in the care of the Red Cross. Selena Wang tells us what Biden administration officials are saying about other American hostages believed to be held by Hamas.
White House officials have been stressing to me that they do not know where these Americans are, what their conditions are. They do not have proof of life. They do not know if they're being held by Hamas or by other groups. U.S. officials, they also say they are working hour by hour with partners in the region to try and get this pause extended until all of the hostages are released.
And families of American hostages still being held by Hamas visited the White House and President Biden today. Crime in Tennessee. Clarksville police have arrested 18-year-old William C.J. Barton in connection to multiple vehicle burglaries. Police found that Barton allegedly stole from 14 different cars. His bond set at $150,000. And law enforcement continue to emphasize the importance of locking up your vehicle and taking the key fob with you, along with safely and securing any firearms. Right now in Middle Tennessee, license plate reader cameras in Clarksville helped in the arrest of 3 attempted murder suspects. The cameras hit on the car they were in, and officers responded, leading to a short chase. The people inside of the suspects in last Friday's beating and stabbing of a man outside the Kelton Hardware store on Old Fort Parkway in Murfreesboro. Meanwhile, police there say the launch of their real-time crime center already paying off.
Not even 12 hours after they were up and running, we were actually able to help solve an armed robbery case from a convenience store.
And Crime Data Analysis Unit Director Ashley Smith says the police department is also looking to add gunshot detection technology. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
37 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock. Hey, glad you're with us here for the drive. We're going to get you some news and information that you can use so you arrive where it is you're going. You'll be well informed. And you'll have something, maybe you'll have a clever story to tell that you might not, maybe you could go to the dinner and talk about Mac Morey's love life, which apparently is going very well.
Oh, boy.
You should never have let me know this.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
What have I done?
I put you on the spot, and what are you going to do? Say no? No, you can't say that.
Of course not. Yeah. Of course not.
All right. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening with this battle over Hunter Biden and whether he's going to show up on Capitol Hill on the 13th day of December for a closed-door session where he will be, have to go through a deposition. And that's what James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, wants, because they have like 1,000 questions to ask him. Well, his attorney is a guy named Abby Lowell, and he sent a letter to James Comer saying, "No, we don't trust you. We're not going to go into a closed door session, but we're willing to do an open door session." And so now the question is, what's going to happen? Because James Comer said, "Nope. Everybody does it the same way." It is sort of very Hunter Biden-esque, isn't it, to say, "Well, I'm special. I don't want to do it the way everybody else has to do it. I want to do it my way." But the question is, Comer says, "No, you're going to have to come back behind closed doors so we can ask you a lot of questions rather than, show up for a dog and pony show hearing in which Democrats will try to disrupt the flow of real news, real information gathering. We're not going to have that." He talked at length. This is a pretty good long cut, but I thought it was pretty good stuff. James Comer being interviewed by the anchors on Newsmax.
What do you do if Hunter Biden refuses to comply with the subpoena and says, "You know what, I won't come in for a closed-door deposition. I'll only do this in public"?
There's a precedent for this. The same exact thing happened when the January 6th committee subpoenaed Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon said he will not come in for a deposition, but he will come in for a public hearing. Jamie Raskins went on Face the Nation and said absolutely not. He can have a public hearing after he does the deposition. He refused to do the deposition, and Congress held Steve Bannon in contempt of court. We will treat Hunter Biden the exact same way the January 6th committee treated Steve Bannon. Look, this is a serious investigation. This is about public corruption at the highest levels of our government. We have over 10,000 pages of documents that we've obtained pertaining to Hunter Biden's financial transactions with our enemies around the world. We need to ask him hundreds of questions. If he comes in for one hearing with 24 members having 5 minutes each to ask questions, with the Democrats yelling and screaming like they do every hearing, we would probably get about 30 to 35 questions in. We need to ask him hundreds of questions about specific transactions with our enemies around the world. We will gladly have a public venue for Hunter Biden. I welcome that, and we will do that after he comes in for the deposition on December 13th.
Do you plan to move forward with contempt of Congress proceedings if he does not show?
If he does not show. Look, this is a serious investigation. I don't think we have to provide any more evidence to prove that Hunter Biden was influence peddling with our enemies around the world. Even the Democrats will admit to that. Where the argument is what Joe Biden's level of involvement was. Now, we want to ask Hunter Biden about that. And you cannot do that in a committee setting.
Are you expecting Hunter Biden to no-show testifying in private?
I wouldn't recommend that if I were Hunter Biden.
But is that what you're expecting?
No, we expect Hunter Biden to show on December 13th for a deposition.
Yeah.
How long does the process take? Because you're on the clock now. We've got 11 months to go until the election. And part of the arithmetic here on Hunter's team's part could be run out the clock.
Well, that's what their strategy is, to run out the clock, to obstruct. That's what they've done to us the entire 8 months. We've had you fight every battle to get every ounce of information pertaining to the crimes the Biden family's committed. If it weren't for the House Oversight Committee, nobody would know anything about all the schemes that the Biden family did with our enemies around the world. Jim Jordan and I talked to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, last night on the House floor, and we were talking about this. And Mike Johnson has our back if Hunter Biden does not comply with the legal subpoena that we issued to him, then we will take steps to hold him in contempt of Congress.
Well, I think that's exactly the way it should be. And you know, look, Abby Lowell is trying to muddy the water here. He's trying to make it seem like it's a political persecution of Hunter Biden. But you know what? This whole thing is really not about Hunter Biden. I mean, Hunter Biden is a witness in an investigation into whether or not the president of the United States is corrupt. And it's a legitimate question, and there's certainly been enough evidence that these serious questions that need to be answered by Hunter Biden. So, you know, he's Abby Lowell is a wily defense attorney, and he's going to try to do anything he can to misdirect. You know, they said you don't pay attention to what the facts are. Pay attention to the little dog and pony show that we and the Democrats are going to put on. That's what he wants. Nancy Mace is a member of that committee, and she was asked by Maria Bartiromo over on Fox Business, you know, what is it that you're looking for here, Nancy?
I want to know where all the bodies are buried. I want to know how these companies were created and layered, where the money was from China and how it got to the U.S., how it got to different Biden family members. Where was Joe Biden? How was he involved? What kind of bribery? The WhatsApp messages, the emails, the text messages. We'll be able to verify his accounting of all of that. And quite frankly, I think he needs to sit for more than one deposition. There's so much money that was involved here. It's incredible. But we've got to do the first step, which is the deposition.
How much money do you believe the Biden family has pocketed at this point?
Oh, well, it's north of $50 million.
Wow. North of $50 million that they now believe went into the coffers of the Biden Incorporated franchise.
The amount of money that we're talking about that we've seen in suspicious activity reports, the amount of money that's been laundered through that family, through their corruption, is going to be north of that. And I think it's significant sums. And, you know, was it cash? Was it credit card? How was this done? Where did Joe Biden have access to the money? All these things can come forward through the testimony of people like Hunter Biden and those affiliated with him. And this does not end well for Joe Biden. I can guarantee you that. We get Hunter Biden and his associates in to prove out what we've been saying all along. And look, every time a Republican has been called a conspiracy theorist on this investigation, every fact we brought forward has been proved to be true. And so that's what we've got to do. And the American people will decide whether or not Joe Biden is corrupt and he should be president. But by this time, it's pretty obvious how this ends.
I mean, over the years, I've been watching how these kinds of investigations go. And I thought maybe it's a little premature to get Joe Biden, get Hunter Biden in for this deposition. But I'm now convinced that number one, this well could turn into a battle of contempt of Congress. It's going to take a little longer to get that person in. But I also do believe that investigators who have had access to documents that have never been seen before, they've already tracked down like $240,000 of money that went into Joe Biden's personal bank account from James Biden, his brother, said to be for the quote-unquote repayment of debt. Yeah, right. What's the debt? Where's the evidence that you got $240,000 from the president of the United States, then the vice president of the United States? Where is the evidence of that debt? So, that's just a little cover-up game is all that is. So that's stuff that really makes us wonder what's going on here. And Hunter Biden is going to be out to save his hide and to do anything he can. But ultimately, the process may be throw Hunter Biden under the bus and then, and let Joe Biden go away untouched. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens here. And Democrats are actually, they're of two minds about the thing. Biden advisors, this is from the Daily Caller, Biden advisors and Democrat strategists have different perceptions of how Hunter Biden's aggressive legal strategy will influence his father's political fortunes as he runs for re-election. 8 people close to President Biden and his son told Politico. A former 2020 campaign aide told Politico some White House officials feel irritated that he's being more aggressive because he's not clearing the tactics with their re-election strategy. Other aides are concerned Hunter Biden's legal tactics increase the spotlight placed on his foreign business dealings and personal scandals. Politico reported. And then there's more to this whole thing. People are sort of Democrats talking about this among themselves. Intentionally or not, they're betting on the political expediency of sacrificing Hunter, a friend said. The greater good is served by accountability and vindication and not by acquiescence to political prosecution and the effort to dehumanize him. Where does that come in? Who is trying to dehumanize the man? You know, Hunter Biden has lived a life of privilege. And you know, everybody, you know, he gets charged with laws that other people would go to jail for, and nothing seems to happen. Because he's the son of a powerful politician. He gets on drugs, makes bad decisions, and seems to think that there should be no accountability for his bad decisions. And so everything is special in his world. He's not accountable for anything that he's ever done. It's somebody else's fault. It was the drugs. It was this. It was that. Well, who took the drugs? Did anybody put a gun to your head and say, here, Hunter, take these drugs? No, you made those decisions. There are consequences for bad decisions, and now you're paying for them. I mean, the guy was so strung out that he took a laptop full of just like unbelievable incriminating evidence and left it at a store and never picked it up. I mean, how stupid could a guy be? But, you know, no. I'm Hunter Biden. I shouldn't have to abide by the rules like everybody else. I don't have to come in because I'm Hunter Biden. I don't have to come in for a deposition because I'm the son of a powerful politician. No, the rules don't change just because you happen, they shouldn't change just because you happen to be the son of a powerful politician. And I hope they hold him accountable for it. By the way, this is precious. I mean, just precious. Karine Jean-Pierre on the Air Force One, I guess it was yesterday, and they're asking him questions about, well, is he gonna testify? Well, how do you guys feel about this?
Probably saw the headlines when we took off that Hunter Biden's attorney Abby Lowell has offered to testify, but publicly. Does the White House support that? Will White House counsel advise him? And should a witness get to negotiate under those terms on how they should be able to testify? Now,
let me just stop you and say here that Karine Jean-Pierre traditionally does not answer Hunter Biden questions. But she had been, I think she'd been a focus group. And they came up with a cute line. And she was ready to test it out.
You know, here's what I'll say about that is House Republicans should really focus on American families instead of the president's family. That's what Americans want to see. They want to see, we just had a few minutes about talking about lowering costs and what matters to the American people just a second ago. And that's what they should be focused on. Focus on the American families and their needs and what they want, and not the president's family. Anything else that's related to this, I would certainly refer you to the White House counsel, my colleagues.
They're focused on it. Should he participate?
What?
Pardon me?
They are focused on the Biden family. So should the president's son participate? Should he testify?
I just answered your question. I think I was very clear on what House Republicans.
Yeah, I was very clear in giving you a predetermined canned answer, and you didn't like it. So, you know, tough. That's all I'm giving you. You know, now I'm just glad that now she's willing to answer questions in some form about Hunter Biden. It is 51 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies, and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
6:01, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 48 degrees, expecting some precipitation later on this week. We'll tell you about it. Full forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Biden administration officials say they're working with their partners in the Middle East to get the pause in fighting in Gaza extended until all of the hostages held by Hamas are released. Here's Selena Wang with more.
The White House has issued its most forceful statement to Israel, saying that they need to be surgical and targeted in their approach to avoid displacing more Palestinian people and to avoid this from turning into a worse humanitarian crisis. U.S. officials also say that the U.S. has made clear to Israel that they want this increased amount of humanitarian aid getting into Gaza to remain that way even when the fighting resumes. And U.S. officials say that so far in their conversations with the Israelis, they have been receptive.
And at least 9 Americans are being held hostage still by Hamas in Gaza, and families of some of those 9 visited the White House and Joe Biden today to advocate for the release of their loved ones. Crime in Tennessee, a teen arrested in connection to a carjacking of a 66-year-old woman. It happened yesterday. 18-year-old Corey Stone allegedly took her car at gunpoint in the Kroger parking lot on Charlotte Pike. Police said that he left officers on a 15-minute-long pursuit. He hit multiple parked cars and tossed a pistol from the vehicle before they arrested him. And before that happened, Stone tried to steal a vehicle from a man, but that man defended himself well. Bond for Stone has been set at $86,000. More crime in Tennessee. Fox 17 reporting that Reagan Guffey and her boyfriend Justin Brumley were arrested for exposing their 1-year-old child to multiple drugs, including meth. Officers saw multiple bags of what was confirmed to be methamphetamine in the door of the minivan. Along with meth, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, fentanyl, Percocets, ecstasy, and oxycodone pills were also found, plus 3 handguns and almost $500 in cash. All those drugs and firearms were close to that 1-year-old child. Some entertainment news. Taylor Swift will end the year as the most listened to artist on the most listened to streaming service in the world. Jason Nathanson.
Was there any doubt? 2023 has been the year of Taylor Swift, and Spotify announced Wednesday that Swift is their top global artist of the year. More than 26 billion streams since January 1st. Bad Bunny was the second most streamed artist, followed by The Weeknd and Drake. To celebrate her victory, Swift dropped a new song. And speaking of songs, Miley Cyrus had the most streamed song of the year worldwide with Flowers. Followed by SZA's Kill Bill and Harry Styles' As It Was.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, it's 7 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Hour number 4 of the drive has arrived on this 29th day of November. We're about to wrap up this month and head into December. Can you believe that? Wow. And we are 25 shopping days from Christmas. And we are 47 days till the Iowa caucuses voting begins. I mean, we're in it. We're into the political season. We're into the holiday season. And I'm excited. Trying to decide what it is I want to put on my list this year.
Oh, for Santa to bring you?
Yeah.
Well, you better think long and hard about it now.
Yeah, I know. I got one of my Christmas wishes when the puppy arrived a little early.
Yeah.
So we're very happy about, if you weren't with us yesterday, we were celebrating the arrival of Solo, Grogu's puppy. And Grogu's reaction was as such. That's exactly what she did. But no, Solo is the new puppy that just arrived, and baby and mama are doing well. And it was amazing yesterday at 4:05. I told everybody at 3:05. I said at 4:05, I'm going to have Cabana Wife bring over the little puppy, and we'll show it on our closed circuit TV thing, face what we call Super Talk Live TV, and you'll be able to see the puppy. We do a lot of hard hitting news here. We do investigative stuff. We interview thought leaders in the community. We talk to senators and Congress people and real important folks. None of them got the same rating that that the little puppy did. Our Super Talk TV ratings were up 5 times over what they normally are yesterday.
Everybody loves a puppy.
Yeah. So, by the way, now that you've found it, don't be afraid to, come back and visit us on Super Talk TV. We love you when you do that. But no, I mean, honestly, I'm shocked. So, I've decided that I'm just going to find an excuse every day to put a cute puppy on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will make me and unavoidably make me the number one talk show host in the nation. I'm pretty sure. All right, some stories that are coming down today, late in the day. I always like to, during the 5 o'clock news, to start looking through and see what has happened late since I came on at 3. This is an interesting story. We've talked about Hunter Biden a little bit, but listen to this story from the Washington Examiner. It's about Hunter Biden and some unusual payments that he received from the Chinese. And it seems that they have connected the dots here. And by connecting the dots, I mean it goes all the way to Joe Biden. You ready? Remember, what was the one thing that we got out of Hunter Biden's laptop? That, number one, 10% to the big guy. Remember that? 10% to the big guy, right? Remember that as I tell you this story, okay? A bank investigator raised concerns internally in 2018 about payments Hunter Biden received, saying the activity on his company bank account appeared, quote, unusual, according to House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. The investigator, who was a bank employee and the Bank Secrecy Act manager, according to a source familiar, alerted colleagues in an email to what the investigator observed as unusual activity after a Chinese government-linked company gave $5 million to fund a joint venture between Hunter Biden and a Chinese businessman. The bank investigator was so concerned about Hunter Biden's financial transactions with the Chinese company in 2018, mind you, he wanted to reevaluate the bank's relationship with the customer. Hunter and James Biden earned significant income from their partnership with CEFC, a Chinese government-linked company beginning shortly after Joe Biden left office in 2017. Bank records previously released by the Oversight Committee show that a CEFC-linked company sent $5 million to an entity owned partly by Hunter Biden and partly by a CEFC executive on August 8th of 2017. The same day, Hunter Biden appears to have transferred $400,000 into Owasco, a personal entity that he used to handle various overseas business transactions. In the weeks that followed, He wired some of the money to James Biden, who ultimately wrote Joe Biden a $40,000 check that House Republicans touted as evidence the president benefited financially from the family's foreign business dealings. So Hunter Biden transfers $400,000, and then after it lands over in James Biden's account, James Biden, his brother, sends him a check for $40,000. What is 10%? Chris, real quick, because, my math skills are always suspect. What is 10% of $400,000?
That would be $40,000.
$40,000. Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
You're correct. There you go. 10% for the big guy. That's really weird. Democrats cited other financial documents that supported Joe Biden's claim that the $40,000 check was a repayment for a loan. Right. Let's see that. According to the email, Hunter Biden would go on to transfer more than $400,000 from Hudson West in this account. More than half of the original $5 million Chinese payment would eventually make its way into Hunter Biden's account, the bank investigators said. The activity on this account appears unusual with no current business purpose. The bank investigators whose identity was reached wrote in June, nearly a year after the CEFC-linked entity deposited $5 million. And, I think the real question about all this, what did they get for their $5 million? What did they get? What did Hunter Biden provide to them? What sage wisdom did this crack addict at the time provide to the Chinese that was worth $5 million? He was basically the money guy, the bag guy for Joe Biden and the family enterprise. We did the story earlier, but I'm going to just hit the highlights of it because I want to then make a transition into a story that is just sort of broken, or at least we're getting the details on. And it is how much you pay as a person trying to live your life for not things like inflation or taxes, but for the hidden taxes that come with regulations. Understand how this works. We have a regulatory process that is run amok, in my opinion, in the United States today. It's that sometimes, even though there are no laws on the books, these regulatory agencies, the EPA, it just goes on and on. There's a whole list of them as long as my arms, and as you know, I have incredibly long arms, monkey-like, really. And so you've got all of these agencies that are out there enforcing regulations, not laws. And if you find yourself in a bad way of having not followed every regulation that these government people come up with, then you can find yourself in an administrative procedure, and you're going to end up spending a lot of money on lawyers, and you will never, ever, ever go to a court of law. It's all handled in an administrative process, and you could end up being penalized for not following, not laws, but regulations. So here's the thing. How much does that cost you? What kind of hidden tax is that to the average American? According to this story in the dailysignal.com, American households pay at least $14,000 a year in hidden regulatory cost. And this is done by the folks over at Wayne Cruz, who's the regulatory studies at the Institute, the CEI. And here's what it means is that $14,000 are hidden costs, and the things that you buy cost more, and the things that you do cost more because of the regulations that are applied by the Biden administration. So if you look back at where we were when Joe Biden took office and where we are today, on average, every year you pay $14,000 more because of the added regulatory burden that has been applied to different businesses by the Biden administration. And by the way, you don't even talk about inflation or anything else. That's another $11,000 that you're paying more annually for things like food and energy, etc., housing, because of the runaway cost of inflation since Joe Biden became president. $14,000 for regulatory, $11,000, and paid that it has to do to inflation. That's, I can add it up. $25,000 that you have to pay now that you didn't have to pay when Donald Trump was president. See, it's hidden. You don't see it all. It's inflation. It's regulatory costs that are buried into the cost of things you buy from businesses and the products and the services that you procure. So, that is there. And housing, food, apparel, service. So, it's just amazing how much this stuff adds up to over time. All right, now I'll bring you to the other story that I wanted to sort of transition to. Supreme Court heard a case today. Supreme Court justices appeared skeptical of the Securities and Exchange Commission's powers to conduct in-house adjudications without juries in a case that would disrupt the administrative state. Justices heard oral arguments on Wednesday involving hedge fund manager and conservative radio disc jockey George Jarkessi, whom the FCC fined and barred from the industry after determining he committed securities fraud. In a bid to avoid commission-appointed administrative law judges deciding his case behind a bureaucratic curtain, Jarkessi appealed to the federal courts, arguing the agency's procedures infringed on his Seventh Amendment rights to a trial by jury. And during arguments Wednesday, Chief Justice John Roberts said it was curious that federal agencies such as the SEC appeared to exert more leverage on daily life than in the past, a position that a majority of the court appeared to agree with in some capacity. The government is much more likely to affect you or proceed against you in one of its own agencies than it is in court. It seems curious to me that unlike most unconstitutional rights, that you have a right to a jury trial until the government decides it doesn't want you to have it. That doesn't seem the way the Constitution traditionally works. Carrying a similar tome of skepticism, Justice Neil Gorsuch contended this isn't your grandfather's SEC. A right to trial by jury is a check on all branches of government, he said. An ancient right, too. Roughly 27 federal agencies have utilized administrative law judges which stand apart from the judicial system, which includes district courts, appeals courts, and the Supreme Court. Administrative law judges are touted by the proponents as a way to adjudicate claims at a much faster rate. But wait. Aren't you allowed to have a jury trial before you are penalized by the government? That's the way it should work, right? The Constitution never imagined that agencies would do that without a jury trial. I think the High Court is ready to strike down the regulatory structure inside our federal government that has taken over and is costing us all so much and can ruin your life, and you never get a chance to have your case heard before a jury trial. I like this, and I hope that they go forward. 6-3 conservative majority. A lot of people on the High Court apparently were asking questions that led court observers to suggest that the High Court might be ready to do something dramatic to strike down the administrative state. Hallelujah. What a good thing that would be. 21 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We talk about Grace Point Healthcare all the time because it's a unique place. You really should think about this. Grace Point delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you know how much it will cost before the care delivered. And that in itself is a unique thing. I mean, you don't get that just every time you go to see a doctor. Smart Care plans are available, and this is a neat thing. Think about this. It could really save you some money in the long run. For just $69 a month, you get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat whole families, even newborns, they can offer family plans as well. If you were to marry that in conjunction with a high deductible insurance plan that you may have, could end up saving you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whatever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider year after year after year. Now, listen, they have COVID testing and treatment. If you think you might have COVID or whatever's going around, come in and get it tested just to make sure. And if you do have COVID, they've got some treatment therapies that have been proven really effective to help you get over it pretty quick. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit. $26 now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We're in the last hour of the drive for this Wednesday, November 29th. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. We really appreciate the support that you give us. I'm touched. I don't want you ever to think that I'm not touched by the fact that you have found merit with what we do here on this program. This is our woke segment from thefederalist.com. On the heels of linking parent support for children's innate sex with child abuse, the Biden administration is posed to force every recipient of federal grants into transgender policies. They have a rule that would expand all federal laws that ban Americans from respecting the differences between men and women to include homosexual and transsexual privileges or sexual orientation and gender identity. More than 100 laws exist. The proposed rule would also delete existing language on all federal grants to adhere to the Constitution in protecting free speech, religious liberty, public welfare, the environment, and prohibiting discrimination. According to the Center for Political Justice, if such rules pass, they would license government discrimination against religious Americans, which is unconstitutional. In other words, They're taking this Green New Deal and they're taking all of these progressive woke policies, and they're trying to say if you get a federal grant, then you have to live under these guidelines that weren't originally in any law, but have been sort of forced into the law through the Biden administration's interpretation of current laws. Federal contracts and grants employ more people than the federal government does directly. In 2022, federal grants were worth $700 billion, nearly what American taxpayers spend on the U.S. military. So it's a huge thing. And this sweeping overhaul of the Office of Management and Budget rules would apply across federal agencies that describe how grants and cooperative agreements should be administered and audited. In other words, if you are counting on a federal grant, there are going to be strings attached. That's the bottom line. And it's going to be all of this wokeness, all of this LGBTQ, all of this DEI, all of this CRT, EIEIO. It's going to be all there. I mean, it's just going to be all there. And they really are trying to do that in a big way. Federal investigation has been launched into Harvard University for possible civil rights violations. Harvard is the 15th school, the 8th college or university added to the list since the conflict began on October 7th. Other colleges include the University of Pennsylvania, Wellesley College, Columbia University. The number of schools under investigation this year doubled since the conflict started. An institution named on the list means that the OCR has initiated an investigation of a case concerning that institution. It doesn't mean that OCR has made a decision about the case, but they are looking at places like Harvard and other major institutions of higher learning for trying to, because they were not protecting the interest of some groups, either be they Jew or Muslim, in these universities. Mostly it was Jewish people who came under attack. The District of Columbia is spending $270,000 of taxpayers' money to redo the BLM paint job right there in front, right there in downtown Washington, D.C. Black Lives Matter, it says in big letters across the entire street, right next to what used to be called Freedom Plaza, which has now been renamed in the District of Columbia Black Lives Matter Plaza. And so, first of all, number one, aren't we past this? Haven't we decided BLM is not a positive thing? I thought we were had decided that they were sort of an institution that was fraudulent and we weren't paying attention to them anymore, but we're still going to spend over $250,000 to refresh the paint job. That's the first thing, is that I think we should not do that because Black Lives Matter seems to have been discredited as an institution. And the other thing I would say, $270,000 for a paint job on a street? I'd do it for $50,000. I'd get me out there late at night, get me a paint bucket. I would repaint that thing so quick.
Get you a roller?
Get me a roller?
Yeah.
I'd even hire people, and I could still come out ahead. How could it possibly cost $270,000 to repaint a street with some letters? I don't understand. Real quick, I know I'm running over. A young Kansas City Chiefs fan that came under criticism for what appeared on TV to be blackface. What they didn't realize is they were shooting the child in profile, and it was both a black and red face, which is, as far as I know, the Kansas City Chief colors. And so the kid was really just raked over the coals for having done this. Said, you can't do that in America today, they said. And then they found out, never mind. There were two colors there. Also turns out, according to this story that I found in the Washington Examiner, that the kid is actually Native American. Oh, really? Well, that makes a difference, doesn't it? 31 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. I want to talk to you today about gold. Now, as I've said before, gold has been used as money for millennia. It has value. It's a tried and true store of value and is consistent among generations. You know, some people have observed that generational wealth can have as many as three components. You can do land, art, or precious metals. Well, land, can you afford land right now with interest rates like they are? Art, I don't know about you, but I don't know a Monet from, I don't know, any other kind. A Van Gogh, I wouldn't understand it. What about precious metals? Now, that's something we can all deal with. We can evaluate that, and we can understand it. So gold, silver, and platinum are practical solutions, and inflation is currently decreasing the value of your green money. That's right. In gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. And if you can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. I mean, do you have gold that perhaps was given to you as a gift or you inherited it? You're not sure what it's worth, or you're just curious about metals and want to know more about them? Well, you can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. That's Nashville Gold and Coin. They are always available to discuss your options and educate you on the precious metals market. So do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. By the way, if you get old coins, bring them in. They'll tell you what they're worth. NashvilleGoldandCoin.com is the place you go to set up your one-on-one appointment. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. $6:39 on Super Talk 99.7. Make it 6:40. It just switched over. You're listening to The Drive. I'm Brian Wilson. Chris Webber there in the control room, pushing all the blinky buttons. Chris, I think I've looked at the stories that I have not yet gotten across the goal line here in the program, and it's just one of those amalgams. It's a weird mixture of stories that, you know, really, honestly, I love to be, you know, the guy who blends one story into another so that there's a seamless thought link through each segment. But I can't do that here.
Huh.
So maybe we'll just squish them together, okay?
Oh, all right.
Story number one. The FBI has been ordered to produce information from Seth Rich's laptop. The Bureau's attempt to challenge a previous order failed to persuade the judge, who said its assertions of exemptions to a federal law were unsupported. The FBI must provide information from Seth Rich's laptop computer to a Texas man, a federal judge ruled on November 28th. That would be yesterday. The Bureau's attempt to challenge an earlier order to produce the information failed to persuade U.S. District Judge Amos Mazant, who said the Bureau's assertion of exemptions to a federal law were unsupported. Now, what is this all about? This has to do with a guy named Seth Rich, who was murdered in D.C. He worked for the DNC, and there have been a lot of questions about it. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this thing because I'm telling you, this can turn into a lawsuit, and I don't need a lawsuit. Believe me, though. It has been an interesting case, and they've never solved the case. And they wanted, now there's apparently some legal filings, and his laptop, which is in the possession of the FBI, is now going to be apparently turned over unless they win on appeal, and it doesn't look like there's much of a case being made to do that. He was a Democrat National Committee worker when he was shot dead in 2016 in Washington. I was there then. I remember this. The crime remains unsolved, though files released in 2021 suggest some people believe, allegedly, what other words can I put in here to be careful, that someone could have paid to have him killed. It also came at a time when there was a big leak of Democrat documents. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm not going any further. But now apparently there have been some efforts to get at that laptop, and they are making progress in that regard. The FBI's losing its argument that the information should not be released. Story number 2. Federal law requires a choice: marijuana or a gun. Vera Cooper reached the point where she decided it was time to buy a gun. In her mid-70s at the time, and widowed several years earlier, she was already feeling vulnerable living by herself. That became the tipping point. The plumbing business that Ms. Cooper owns in the Florida Panhandle had to fire a worker, and that worker stormed out of the office threatening vengeance. At a nearby gun store, she settled on a .22 caliber pistol that felt good in her hand. Then came a problem. A question on the firearms transaction form she was required to complete asked whether she was an unlawful user of marijuana or other drugs categorized by the federal government as a controlled substance. Ms. Cooper is registered in Florida's medical marijuana program and relies on the drug to ease her chronic knee pain and her sleeplessness. She answered the query accordingly and was told, well, as long as you hold a marijuana card, you cannot buy a gun. I'd feel safer with a gun, but without the marijuana before bed, said I couldn't sleep anyway. It's a tough choice. There are relatively few limitations at the federal level on who is eligible to purchase or possess firearms and ammunition, but the national background check system looks for issues like criminal conviction, mental health problems, a dishonorable military charge, unlawful immigration status, or a domestic restraining order. But even as a growing number of states have legalized marijuana, either for recreational or medical use, participating in a state's medical marijuana system remains a barrier to gun ownership. I did not know this. The issue is shaping up to be one of the legal frontiers in the national debate over gun policy. See, the federal government does not recognize marijuana as being legal, even though so many states have. Federal laws very seldom prosecute small-time marijuana possession cases, but that means that apparently since it's not technically legal, it is a barrier if you want to go and buy a gun. Wow, that's an interesting thing. I don't think I'd ever heard that story before. Next story. Conservative education revolution. Tennessee leaders push statewide school vouchers. We talked about this. We talked about how the governor's got a plan to provide education vouchers for, well, I think it's 20,000 kids the first year, but after the second year, anybody in the state would be allowed to go to any school they want, and there would be a $7,000 available to go toward your private education, a parochial education, homeschooling, whole host of things. And I said to you, I completely support this. I don't think there's anything wrong with competition for public schools. It will make public schools either get better or they're going to lose out to people going to private schools. Why should they not be subject to competition? Competition makes everything better. You should never shy away from being in a competitive situation because it makes you sharper. It makes you better. You have to perform. And there are many schools that aren't performing right now. And I'm 1,000% with the governor on this plan. But I told you yesterday when we talked about this, or maybe it was Monday, we talked about it in length, that there are going to be slings and arrows coming from all directions. School board members across Tennessee condemn voucher expansion. This is from the Tennessean.com. Let's see. If passed, the scholarships will be open to 20,000 students in the 2024-25 school year and then universally available in 2025. Rachel Ann Elrod, who chairs the Metro Nashville Public School Board, released a fiery statement Monday condemning the move to create vouchers for more students. It's moral and fiscal malpractice for Tennessee to dismantle and destabilize public education, Elrod said in an emailed statement to the Tennessean. The state started education privatization in Nashville and Memphis, and now it's spreading across the state. Oh, how will we ever survive? What will happen to my cushy job? Elrod cited recent data from Tennessee Comprehensive Assessment Program that showed students in the voucher program scored lower than their peers. I'm not sure that I believe that, but along with 85% of charter school students falling short. She praised public schools as a vital source of education. Okay, except when they don't work. Yeah, there's some places you can point to that are very successful in public schools. If you want to stay in the public schools, there's nothing wrong with that. It's your choice. But if you don't feel like the public schools are getting it done, if you're in an underperforming school, you ought to have an option. And I'm for it, but here it is already. Memphis Shelby County School Board member Amber Hewitt Garcia said the vouchers can help some students whose needs aren't met by public schools. However, she expressed concerns over state leaders seemingly lacking input from school districts and other stakeholders. Well, they know what their position is, and it's just been proven. Next story. Nashville adds free short-term parking to ease traffic congestion. Look, we can all agree from everything. I've heard the horror stories from people who tried to go to the airport during the Thanksgiving season when, a lot of people travel. And it was apparently a nightmare, mainly because if you're going to the airport to pick somebody up, the cell phone lot that you're used to going to is not there. And if you don't know that, you go looking for the cell phone lot and you're already in the queue, but there is no cell phone lot at the airport. It's 3 miles away right now while they're under construction. I don't think that's the permanent solution, but that's the solution right now. It's a long way away, and nobody wants to drive from a cell phone lot that is 3 miles away. So they get into the queue and they just circle and they circle and they circle until the person comes out to the curb and you pick them up. Didn't work so well. Had traffic backed up all the way to the interstate. It was a mess. Now the airport is going to offer complimentary and reduced rate parking options for short-term parking. You can go in, park your car, walk over to the terminal, meet your party, bring them back to your car and take off, and you're not going to be circling and circling and circling and circling. And I think that's a good short-term solution. So congratulations for figuring that one out. Finally, the National Christmas Tree lighting will take place on December 15th, right there next to the White House on the ellipse, even though the Christmas tree blew over in a storm. The giant Christmas tree experienced a tumble on Tuesday evening due to harsh winds coming through the Washington, D.C. area. I can identify. The National Park Service replaced a cable that had been snapped and brought the tree upright again by 6 p.m. on Tuesday. None of the 58 smaller trees that surround the national Christmas tree was damaged. About 20 ornaments fell from the tree but did not break. Crews are installing concrete blocks and additional cables to further secure the tree. I remember the worst traffic of the year was on the night they did the Christmas tree lighting in Washington, D.C. It was horrific. You didn't want to be downtown if you could avoid it. 50 minutes now past the hour.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.